Chapter 3058. What? Overlord, what do you mean by that? Hearing Lan Su's words, everyone in the Azure territory was furious. What I mean is that if I go out alone, no one will know about this. So that more people won't talk. Lan Su said coldly and ran to Night Sorrow's side and said, Night Sorrow, I'll cooperate with you and kill them all. Then I'll teach you the divine ability. None of them, including Blueheart, had learned a complete set of divine abilities. Only I have the complete divine ability. Alright. Facing Lan Xian and the others, Night Sorrow, Shao Tianxian, Myriad Sword Sect and the others did not hesitate and directly attacked them. With Lan Su's cooperation, everyone in the Azure territory was quickly killed. Before her soul was destroyed, Lan Xian viciously cursed Lan Su. However, Lan Su did not care at all. To him, staying alive was more important than anything else. Actually, there were definitely cultivators who had integrity and were not afraid of death, but they were definitely in the minority. Most cultivators would make the same choice as Lan Su when faced with such a situation. Alright, the matter is more or less settled, we can begin. First, make a heavenly oath. After Little Seven sucked everyone in the Azure territory into the 7th level of the Eternal Divine Tower, Night Sorrow looked at Lan Su and said. Hearing this, Lan Su nodded with a serious expression and made a heavenly oath. Then, he taught the divine ability of the Azure territory to Night Sorrow. The divine ability of the Azure territory was called the Azure Sea. The name was very ordinary, but the aura it gave off was very vast. It could release waves that were tens of thousands of feet high. Night Sorrow had just learned it and understood that this divine ability's main advantage was its vast concept. As for the sea, it was just a surface. Very good. It's a very powerful divine ability. The power of the Azure Sea Tide could only be sensed and not expressed. Yi Shan quietly experienced it for a moment and immediately understood the key point. Since Night Sorrow is satisfied with the divine ability, can you let me go? Lan Su saw that Night Sorrow was satisfied and immediately asked. Jing Yun, let him go. This Azure Sea is enough to exchange for his life. Night Sorrow looked at Jing Yun and said. Alright. Jing Yun, who was already familiar with the path, nodded and looked at Lan Su. You can leave now. Good, good. Lan Su nodded and left the cave immediately. Why do I feel like there's something in his eyes? After Lan Su left, Shao Tianxian immediately said with a frown. If it was anyone else who was forced to hand over their divine ability, they would be filled with hatred. It doesn't matter. The gap between us will only grow bigger and bigger. He won't be able to cause any trouble. Night Sorrow continued, Come on. I will teach you the Azure Ocean. The move is only on the surface. You have to think about the power contained within it. That kind of power where the whole world is under one's control is very mysterious. Good. I'll give it a try. Master Wan Jian said eagerly. Sure. I'll impart it to you first. Night Sorrow smiled and began to impart the Azure Ocean to Master Wan Jian. At this time, Lan Su, who had left the cave, said with a sinister face, This hatred, I must take revenge. After leaving the cave controlled by Jing Yun, he did not leave the cave. Instead, he waited for experts. He wanted to pay a price in exchange for experts from other territories to attack Night Sorrow and the others. Night Sorrow, who was not aware of Lan Su's plot, was still imparting the Azure Ocean to others. It didn't take long for everyone in the God world to learn the third divine ability. Night Sorrow, on the other hand, had 4, which was slightly stronger than the others. In terms of movement technique, he was much stronger than the others. However, if he imparted it casually, it might expose his supreme longevity. Therefore, he held back and did not teach it to others. After Night Sorrow finished imparting the divine ability, everyone in the divine realm, just like after they learned the Clear Cloud Thousand Transformations technique, cultivated and fused various divine abilities. After comprehending the force contained in the Azure Sea, their original attacks did not change, although the attack pattern did not change. However, there was an additional power that could swallow heaven and earth. Especially Night Sorrow's Qing Xian godly spear technique, It was like a surging sea, wave after wave. The improvement was huge. This azure ocean is really a good divine ability. My spear technique has become much stronger. After completely recovering from his cultivation, Night Sorrow saw Jingyun looking at him and said with a smile, "That's indeed the case. As expected, every territory's divine ability is not simple. I'm thinking, if one day we can fuse the Myriad Tao, how magnificent would that be?" After fusing 3 divine abilities, Jingyun felt that her ultimate technique was as powerful as the mountains and seas. She immediately thought of fusing the Myriad Tao. I feel that if we can truly fuse the Myriad Tao, we won't have to be afraid of those terrifying creatures in the fog. Speaking of the Myriad Tao, Night Sorrow immediately thought of those terrifying creatures that Supreme Longevity mentioned. In his heart, a great pressure suddenly rose. Jingyun, who saw through Night Sorrow's thoughts, smiled and stroked his arm, saying, "Don't worry. The legendary Great Calamity hadn't even come yet. We have time." There's still time. But there shouldn't be much time left. We still have to improve our strength as soon as possible. I reckon that when the time comes, ordinary supreme beings will only be cannon fodder. While Night Sorrow sighed, the battle intent in his heart also completely bloomed. Then, everyone in the God Realm territory recovered from their cultivation one by one. Everyone's harvest was not bad. One Jianzong laughed and said, "In the future, I've decided not to leave Brother Ye's side. Wherever Brother Yi goes, I'll go. This way, sooner or later, I'll become the second expert in the eternal supreme world." Second expert? I also want to compete. Xiao Tianxian also made a rare joke. After the 2 of them finished speaking, Jing Yun, Murong Zhenlu, and the others also said in unison, "I also want to compete." You guys. Seeing everyone's performance, Night Sorrow's face revealed a trace of a smile. These friends in front of him had become his most precious wealth in the eternal supreme world. Then, everyone in the small grotto heaven chatted and laughed as they drank. Recently, they were either fighting or cultivating, and the pressure was relatively high. They felt that it was time for everyone to take a break. Boom. However, just as the wine was drunk, there was an incomparably loud sound in the sky above the grotto heaven. That's the sound. The opportunity from the heavens should have begun. Let's go out. Hearing this sound, Jingyun suddenly raised her eyebrows and said, "But let's go out. Everyone remember, no matter what, the most important thing is to protect yourself." When everyone flew up, Night Sorrow reminded them. When he flew to the sky above the small grotto heaven, he saw almost 10,000 cultivators. Without a doubt, these were all competitors. Moreover, the number of cultivators was still increasing. Genius remembered the address of this site in a second. Clan Mobile Version Reading Website. Chapter 3059. Many cave masters of the small grotto heavens, like the people of the God world, came out of their grotto heavens after hearing the commotion. In an instant, the sky above the 3,000 small grotto heavens became very lively. This is really a big scene. It's even fiercer than the battle for Providence. Looking at the sea of people in front of him, Master Wan Jian could not help but sigh. At the same time, a strong battle intent rose from his body. Hearing this, Yuan Fengxue snorted and said, "Of course it's much fiercer. Those who participate in the battle for Providence are all rulers. Now, they are basically all supremes. How can it be the same? Today's battle is far more dangerous than before. You should use your brain when fighting. Don't rush forward brainlessly, understand? There are so many experts in front of us, I won't casually reveal any flaws." Master Wan Jian smiled at Yuan Fengxue. At this time, Night Sorrow was also explaining some things to Jing Yun and Wu Lingfei. The scene in front of them was too big. After the battle, there would definitely be chaos. He had to explain some details clearly. After talking to the 2 girls, Night Sorrow gathered everyone in the God world and said, "Resources are important, but safety is more important. If you encounter danger, give up the resources in front of you. The world is bustling for profit, and the world is bustling for profit. Most people are here to fight for opportunities. Sometimes, as long as you give up the fight, you shouldn't be targeted. Don't worry. Although everyone's cultivation is relatively low, their battle strength is not inferior to ordinary supremes. It's a bit arrogant to say that we will kill everyone. But if you want to give up the resources to protect yourself, there shouldn't be a problem. Xiao Tianxian understood Night Sorrow's worry and quickly comforted him. When the battle starts later, if anyone encounters danger, directly enter the Eternal Divine Tower. The Eternal Divine Tower is an earthly supreme artifact. In the sky above the grotto heavens, no one can break through it. After that, Night Sorrow said this and observed the state of the other cultivators. There were definitely more than 10,000 people here, and most of them were unfamiliar faces. Therefore, no one paid attention to them who came from the God world. Moreover, among them, only Jing Yun had the cultivation of supremes. Naturally, she was ignored by the surrounding cultivators. Some of the supreme beings present felt that these people in front of them were simply courting death. Many people had mocking looks on their faces, waiting to see them make a fool of themselves. Don't laugh at us. I don't even like you guys. Everyone else looked at him with disdain, and the myriad swords sect grumbled. Night Sorrow smiled and comforted him. It's okay. It would be great if they could truly fight. Our goal is to obtain resources and increase our strength. I'm not angry. Don't worry. I don't like them at all. In a few more years, all of them will be trash. Master Wan Jian said proudly, then continued, Oh right. Where are the 3 grotto heavens? Wan Jianzong looked around, but he didn't see any sign of the grotto heaven. Hearing this, Jing Yun replied, The grotto heaven requires a teleportation array to enter. Anyone could use the teleportation matrix, but the armored zombie had no memory of what it would be like after entering it. However, he was extremely afraid of that teleportation array. I've never dared to take even half a step here. Let's discuss this matter at length. Get ready for battle. Looking at the scene before us, the opportunity should be coming soon. Although there are many cultivators in front of us, the 3,000 grotto heavens occupy a large enough space. The battle shouldn't be too intense at the beginning. At this time, Night Sorrow continued to instruct. The only thing he was worried about was that the people of the heavenly realm would be in danger amidst the chaos. Boom, boom, boom. As soon as Night Sorrow's voice fell, there was a loud thunderclap in the void. After the thunderclap, a huge black hole suddenly appeared in the void. Looking up at the void, one could see that the black hole in the sky was bigger than the 3,000 grotto heavens combined. It covered a vast area. It's here. It's finally here. I don't know what kind of situation this opportunity will come in. Looking up at Night Sorrow in the void, he thought to himself. The black hole didn't make Night Sorrow wait for too long. Soon the opportunity came. Among the things that came, there were Sovereign Law and Earth Sovereign Law and Earth Sovereign Law and Earth Sovereign Divine Artifacts, and various elixirs. The quality of these things were obviously better than some of the things in the Eternal Sovereign world. As time passed, these things slowly came down. However, some things stopped after a certain distance and didn't come down anymore. Everyone looked around and found that the higher the distance, the better the quality. How could they remain calm? As a few people flew up into the void, the others immediately flew up to fight for the opportunity. However, they found that flying up would be met with a strong force of imprisonment. The higher they flew, the more difficult it was. At this time, Xiong Hammer reminded Night Sorrow, the higher we go, the greater the pressure. I can see the restriction, but I don't have the ability to break it. The person who set up the restriction must be an Earth Sovereign or at least a Heavenly Sovereign. The Taoist rhyme of the restriction has a natural feeling. This is not something an Earth Sovereign can do. I guess this must be a senior from the Eternal Sovereign world who is contributing to the Eternal Sovereign world. But if you want to get good things, you have to prove your strength. Night Sorrow told the people of the God world and summoned Little Seven. He asked him to take care of everyone and continued to go up. His goal was the best resources. Naturally, he didn't want to fight with others underground. At this time, there were about 100 people who could reach the same height as Night Sorrow. These 100 sovereigns all had the strength of a half-step Earth sovereign. A white-bearded sovereign, who was far away from Night Sorrow, saw Night Sorrow fly to such a height with the strength of a half-step Earth sovereign. He couldn't help but shout, "Little brother, your cultivation is ordinary, but your strength is heaven-defying. In time, when you become a sovereign, I'm afraid you will become an invincible existence. Which territory are you from?" Yishang turned around and saw that the white-bearded prime was wearing a Taoist robe that was glittering with jewels. At this time, he was still at ease. Obviously, he still had the ability to go up. However, the old man was completely relaxed and unhurried. After glancing at him, Yishang was immediately shocked. Although the elder was a half-step to earthly sovereign, his true strength was about the same as Yu earthly sovereign from the Moonshadow estate. The strength of the two's auras was almost the same. With such strength, even Night Sorrow was no match for him. Night Sorrow cupped his fists politely and said, "Senior, you flatter me. I'm Night Sorrow from the God World. Clan M." Chapter 3060. In fact, when Night Sorrow spoke, he was already prepared to fight. After all, the realm of the gods was the enemy of the entire eternal supreme world. An expert with such strength must have come from a stronger territory. Little brother, don't be nervous." Seeing Night Sorrow's vigilance and fighting spirit, the old man with white eyebrows and a white beard smiled. He said, "I've heard of you. You are the champion of this battle of providence. With the strength you have shown so far, you really live up to your reputation. Among the sovereigns, you should be the first. I, Baimei Sanren, am very happy to meet such a talented junior like you." Baimei Sanren? Are you Senior Baimei Sanren? When he heard this name, the wariness between Yishang's brows immediately dissipated by quite a bit. He had heard of Baimei Sanren before. He was one of the 10 great itinerant men of the eternal supreme world. The 10 great itinerant men had followed Yen Hengshi or Yen Yen in their previous lives. However, they had all died in battle during the Great Tribulation. Now, they were all reincarnated. They were not interested in the eternal supreme world. Therefore, after reincarnating, they all announced that they had become itinerant men. Because of some of the powerful memories of their previous lives, their strength had increased very quickly. Although they were very strong, they had never attacked anyone in the eternal supreme world. Even when fighting for resources, they had only done so. The 10 of them were usually elusive, as if they were existences that only existed in legends. Night Sorrow did not expect to meet one today. "Hi, it's me." Baimei Sanren saw that Night Sorrow had heard of his name and smiled. At this time, Night Sorrow, who was collecting some earthly supreme rules and essences, asked curiously, "Senior, with your strength, why don't you go to the grotto to fight for better things?" If I were to enter the grotto heaven alone, I would have no chance at all. If I am sent in, even if I don't die, I will be crippled." After Baimei Sanren finished speaking, he smiled and asked, "Little brother Knight, are you also interested in the grotto?" "Of course. The Great Tribulation is coming. Who doesn't want to become stronger as soon as possible?" Night Sorrow sighed. In front of Baimei Sanren, he did not hide anything about the Great Tribulation. Hearing this, Baimei Sanren was startled and said, "It's coming again?" When he said this, his body trembled slightly. The battle back then was simply too tragic. Almost all the cultivators of the eternal supreme world had died in battle. If it weren't for the creatures in the foggy area being used to absorbing the energy in the foggy area and occupying the eternal supreme world, the myriad realms wouldn't have been able to grow at this time. Although it's cruel, it's coming again. These words were spoken by Senior Yen Heng's shadow. After Night Sorrow collected the earthly supreme law and essence in front of him, he continued to move up. Baimei Sanren, who had just collected a divine artifact, heard the name Yen Hengshi and his shoulders trembled. He asked, "Did you encounter Senior Yen Hengshi's shadow in the Battle of Providence? Did you hear about Yan's whereabouts from him?" Back then, Baimei Sanren followed Yen, but he was also in awe of Yen Hengshi. "Senior White Brow, are you an old acquaintance of Senior Yen?" Night Sorrow could clearly feel the excitement from Bai Mei Sanren's body, so he immediately asked, I am a general under Yen Hengshi. In the last Great Tribulation, we fought side by side. Bai Mei Sanren's eyes dimmed as he said, I witnessed the scene of her being killed with my own eyes. I don't know if she has reincarnated. Senior Yen Hengshi once mentioned Senior Yen. He said that she was only seriously injured back then and did not die in battle. She should be recovering somewhere at this time. Night Sorrow could feel that Bai Mei Sanren was not lying, so he directly told him about Yen. What? Not dead? That's great. That's great. What Yen Hengshi said can't be false. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Bai Mei Sanren immediately laughed out loud. It's just that Senior Yen Hengshi also said that none of the three in the fog area should be dead. Therefore, this Great Tribulation should be more difficult for our eternal Supreme World to survive than the last one. At this time, Night Sorrow said with a frown. Thinking of what Yen Hengshi said, he once again felt that his strength was too weak. None of the three bastards from back then died? That's not fair. What about Yen Hengshi? So what? Is he okay? Bai Mei Sanren continued to ask. Senior Yen Hengshi has completely fallen in the battle back then. In the face of another Great Tribulation, we can only rely on Senior Yen and ourselves. Night Sorrow said helplessly. In the fog area, there were three supreme existences. However, there was only one territory in the divine realm. Moreover, the number of heavenly sovereigns and earth sovereigns was absolutely in the fog area. This battle was not going to be easy. What our eternal supreme world lacks now is time. Bai Mei Sanren smiled bitterly and said, in fact, the number of geniuses that have emerged in the eternal supreme world today is obviously more than back then. On the whole, the cultivation talent of cultivators was incomparable to that of the past. However, we lack time. I don't know when those three demons will start the war again. On the surface, it looks like our eternal Paragon realm is still going to lose this time. But how can we endure the fate of being slaughtered again and again? Therefore, at present, increasing our strength is very important. This is also the reason why I want to enter the Grotto Heaven. Yishang said. He did not hide his determination to increase his strength. Little brother Knight, the fact that Yen Hengshi has said so much to you proves that he values you very much. Bai Mei Sanren's eyes flashed and said, why don't I be your guardian? Guardian? What's that? After collecting the Earth Sovereign's rules and essence, Night Sorrow began to move up, looking for elixirs that could increase his strength. At present, his main goal was to advance to the Supreme Realm. After Night Sorrow asked, Bai Mei Sanren said, in layman's terms, I'm a fighter. Whoever dares to deal with you, I will deal with them. I will protect you as you grow. And I will teach you some of the things I have mastered. Senior Whitebrow, this is not good. You have your own path, I can't delay you. When Yi Shang heard this, he immediately refused. It would be great to have Whitebrow and the other two as helpers, but he did not want a legendary figure to become a vassal. Then cooperate, I'm willing to cooperate with you. What you mean is that if you want to advance to the Supreme Realm, then enter the Grotto Heaven to seize the opportunity. When the time comes, let's do it together. At this time, Bai Mei Sanren continued. Genius remembered this site's address in a second. Human mobile version reading website. Chapter 3061. Let's enter the Grotto Heaven and explore it together. Night Sorrow said. He didn't want to owe the other party too much, as that would make his Taoist heart unstable. Since that's the case, I'll quickly snatch the resources for you to advance. After receiving Night Sorrow's affirmative answer, Bai Mei Sanren immediately flew to a higher area. The height he flew at was obviously higher than anyone else present, and it immediately attracted a lot of attention. Most of the practitioners present had heard of Bai Mei Sanren's name, but none of them recognized him. For a moment, everyone was trying to guess his identity. Just as the crowd was discussing, Bai Mei Sanren started to throw good things at Night Sorrow's location. Earthly sovereign resources, spiritual pills, divine veins. All of them were thrown at Night Sorrow's location. Night Sorrow naturally couldn't refuse such good intentions, so he thought to himself, if there's a chance in the future, I'll definitely make up for all of this. Then he started to collect all kinds of good things. Bastard! If this goes on, all the good things will be taken by this kid. Absolutely not. Seeing that Night Sorrow was continuously receiving resources thrown at him by Baimei Sanren, the 20 half-step earthly sovereigns who were flying at the same height as Night Sorrow were all enraged. The height they could fly at was about the same as Night Sorrow's. They couldn't reach Baimei Sanren's height at all. After Yu Xinghui spoke, 3 half-step earthly sovereigns from the Huiyue territory immediately flew toward Night Sorrow, ready to snatch the resources thrown at him by Baimei Sanren. Little brother Night Sorrow, if you let me be your protector, I'll naturally swat these flies away. Seeing the 3 half-step earthly sovereigns attack Night Sorrow to snatch the resources, Yu Xinghui smiled. High up in the sky, Baimei Sanren smiled and said, it was obvious that he had expected this situation to happen. However, when he heard this, Yishang unexpectedly replied, don't worry, big brother. Just the 3 of them are not enough to threaten me. Junior, aren't you a little too arrogant? Which territory are you from? Tell me your name. Yu Xinghui, a half-step earthly sovereign from the Huiyue territory, had a murderous look on his face. He was not pleased to see a half-martial highness taking all the good stuff here. However, before he attacked, he had to ask about the other party's background. If they were from the 4 great holy lands, he would not dare to offend them in the slightest. Night Sorrow of the Heavenly Realm. Night Sorrow naturally knew why the other party was asking for his name, but he didn't hold anything back. Ju He by Mao, let's go and kill him together. If the one above makes a move, we'll fight together. That little bastard from the God world can't be allowed to live. Cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. Upon hearing Night Sorrow's words, Yu Xinghui, a half-step earthly sovereign from the Radiant Moon territory, immediately transmitted a message to the other 2 half-step earthly sovereigns. These 2 were from the Underworld Star Territory and the 100 Ninja Territory respectively. The Underworld Star Territory and the 100 Ninja Territory were among the top 10 Eternal Sovereigns. Back then, they had all attacked the Supreme Longevity. Upon hearing that Night Sorrow was from the God world, their hearts were filled with murderous intent. They all knew that Night Sorrow had taken the first place in this battle of Providence, so there was no room for him. Cut the weeds and eliminate the roots? You guys are so mighty. I hope that when the great calamity comes, you guys will still be so unyielding. Night Sorrow looked at the other party with a cold look on his face. What great calamity? Today is your calamity. Yu Xinghui snorted coldly and roared, attack. At the same time, a light sword made of starlight appeared in his hand. The light sword was not very big, about 2 meters long. However, after it was taken out, it immediately lit up the entire sky. The aura it contained was extremely powerful. What a powerful divine weapon. If Brother Wan can get it, his strength will definitely increase by a lot. Yu Xinghui took out the light sword and slashed at Night Sorrow. His light sword was called the Starlight Sword. It was the same name as the long swords of the other people in the Starlight Territory. However, it was the highest grade sword in the territory. It was close to an earthly sovereign divine weapon. When it slashed an ordinary long sword, it felt like it could cut through iron like mud. Facing it, Night Sorrow had a strange thought in his mind. Then he directly activated the 33 Heavens Battle Secret Technique and used the Qingxian Godly Spear Technique to fight with his opponent. The Qingxian Godly Spear Technique was different from some of the other spear techniques that Night Sorrow had. It was not just a simple attack. When it was used, it was like an endless rain falling on Yu Xinghui. Young man, you have some skills. No wonder you can make it to the end of the Battle of Providence. For a moment, Yu Xinghui, who was suppressed, was not anxious. This was because at this time, the other 2 half-earthly sovereigns, Ju He and 100 Eyes, attacked Night Sorrow at the same time. The other sovereigns, who were about the same height, were collecting resources while keeping an eye on the situation. They did not have any intention of attacking, but they were also keeping an eye out, hoping that no one would suddenly attack them. Don't call me a young man. Can't you see clearly who is stronger and who is weaker? Night Sorrow scolded Yu Xinghui disdainfully, then continued to attack him. The Qingxian Godly Spear technique combined 4 superpowers. Especially after combining with the Azure Sea Tide, the attack was very powerful. It looked like a dense raindrop, but the momentum was really big, like the Overlord Spear. Yu Xinghui was quickly suppressed. After Zhu He and 100 Eyes attacked, Night Sorrow scolded coldly, "Since you attacked me today, you should kill me directly. Otherwise, I will take your heads even if I have to go to the ends of the earth." Young man, you are too arrogant. The Eternal Supreme Realm is not a place for a young man like you to be fierce. Zhu He, who had been scolded, showed a trace of disdain. Then, he took out a long and narrow saber and slashed at Night Sorrow. This saber was not as good as the Starlight Sword, but it was also very sharp. Facing him, Night Sorrow did not dare to be careless. While attacking Yu Xinghui, he kept dodging. After learning the Xiantian secret shadow of the Jiao Xian territory, his speed was not inferior to any prime. The two of them attacked Night Sorrow at the same time, but they did not quickly suppress him. Yu Xinghui shouted, "100 Eyes, what are you waiting for? I am looking for an opportunity." The woman called 100 Eyes, while responding to Yu Xinghui, was not in a hurry to attack. When Night Sorrow and the two of them were extremely anxious, hundreds of eyes suddenly opened on her body. After these disgusting eyes were opened, Lin Fan opened his eyes. Suddenly, hundreds of black lights shot at Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow, who was not at a disadvantage, did not have the slightest fear of Yu Xinghui and Zhu He's attack. However, this attack from 100 Eyes immediately caused a sense of danger to rise from the bottom of his heart. Chapter 3062. At the same time, 100 Eyes said sinisterly, "100 Eyes open, 10,000 gods slay." After chanting this incantation, the hundreds of black lights immediately attacked Night Sorrow as if they were controlled by a soul. Every single one of the 100 streaks of black light transformed into an extremely evil demon. After these things took shape, they immediately pounced on Night Sorrow and tore at his soul. It was as if they wanted to pull his soul out of his body. Even though Night Sorrow had the power to fight the heavens and the earth, he was still unable to withstand it. Facing such an evil attack, he felt a little uncomfortable. "Ah, little brother Night, how is it? Do you need me to help?" After seeing 100 Eyes attack, Bai Mei Sanren immediately sent a voice transmission to Night Sorrow. He could see that Night Sorrow was struggling at this moment. "No need." Night Sorrow, who was being suppressed, replied coldly, anger rising in his heart. This was the first time he felt like his soul was being pulled at, and he was completely disgusted. "Are you angry? Be angry, I will let you suffer the baptism of death in your anger. What awaits you will be the destruction of your soul." At this moment, 100 Eyes, hundreds of eyes were staring at Night Sorrow, making one's scalp tingle. Eye technique. Being stared at by 100 Eyes, Night Sorrow felt uncomfortable in his heart. Soon he realized that the crux of the problem lay in the eye technique and not the Qi, Mei, Wang, Liang and Ba. At this moment, Yu Xinghui and Zhu He's attacks came one after another. Under the attacks of the three, Night Sorrow immediately felt the threat of death. In this crisis, he instantly calmed down. In his mind, 100 Eyes eye technique flashed. At the same time, he remembered some eye techniques that he had come into contact with. If he couldn't break the other party's eye technique, and Night Sorrow had already said everything, there was no need for Bai Mei Sanren to help. In the blink of an eye, Night Sorrow comprehended an eye technique that combined the god's finger. He roared, "Supreme God Eye!" In an instant, an extremely powerful beam of light shot out of his sea serpent eye. This beam of light was similar to the attack of the divine finger. However, it was used to counter eye techniques and divine soul attacks. After a beam of light shot out, it went straight for the 100-eyed's body. The beam of light immediately burned all of the 100-eyed's eyes. The 100 eyes of the 100 eyes were hit by this attack and immediately shed 100 tears of blood. The demons and monsters she had used to restrain Yishan had all disappeared as well. In the blink of an eye, At this time, Yu Xinghui and Zhu He's attacks finally arrived. In the face of their attacks, Night Sorrow immediately used Mysterious Sky's secret shadow to dodge. At this moment of life and death, he no longer had the ability to hide the Mysterious Sky shadow. After using it, he directly dodged the attacks of the two people. Wasn't this movement technique the profound Sky secret shadow of the 9 profound territories? A genuine Xiantian secret shadow. How is this possible? Seeing Night Sorrow use the genuine Xiantian secret shadow, Yu Xinghui and Zhu He were both stunned. On the other hand, the 100-eyed at the side closed all of her eyes tightly. After being attacked by the Supreme God Eye, almost all of her eyes were destroyed. This was not only because Night Sorrow's attack was powerful, but also because she had failed to use her eye technique and suffered a terrifying backlash. Her eye technique was powerful, but it was also accompanied by great danger. As long as it was interrupted, she would suffer a serious backlash. I'll kill you first. Disgusting thing. After recalling the hundreds of eyes of the 100-eyed, Night Sorrow felt disgusted. With a loud roar, he used the mysterious Azure Divine Spear technique to attack. Although all of her eyes were sealed, the 100-eyed still had a trace of strength to fight back. With the help of Yu Xinghui and Zhu He, she temporarily resisted Night Sorrow's attack. However, as the battle continued, Night Sorrow gradually gained control of the situation. This was because he realized that although Yu Xinghui and Zhu He were very strong, they did not have any special skills. They did not seem to have any secret treasures on them. Experts with such strength do not have any secret treasures on them. This is strange. After Night Sorrow confirmed that the 3 of them did not have any secret treasures on them, he began to fight more fiercely. Soon, the 3 of them were completely suppressed. Seeing that Night Sorrow was beginning to gain the upper hand, Bai Mei and the other 2 suddenly said, "The 3 of them are just doppelgangers. But their real bodies are not far away. If I'm not wrong, they followed someone into the grotto heaven." "What? They are all doppelgangers." Hearing Bai Mei Sanren's words, Night Sorrow was surprised. However, the 100-eyed and the rest performance soon confirmed Bai Mei and the other 2's words. Seeing that they could not resist Night Sorrow's attack, the 100-eyed shouted maliciously, "Junior, just you wait. This is not over. Even if I have to chase you to the ends of the earth, I will dig out your eyeballs. I think it won't be long before we meet again." Bai Mei Sanren guessed that the 3's real bodies were in the grotto heaven. Night Sorrow felt that his guess was reliable. The 3 of them could not have only sent their doppelgangers to fight for the opportunity. When the doppelgangers were in danger, the real bodies did not come to help. It was very likely that they were fighting in the grotto heaven and had no time to care. Otherwise, the 3's real bodies would have come to kill them. Since their real bodies were most likely in the grotto heaven, Night Sorrow was prepared to fight again after he advanced. "Junior, don't be so arrogant. Just you wait." Yu Xinghui replied unhappily. Then he looked at the other 2 and said, "Don't talk nonsense with him. Let's go." But Zhu He agreed and disappeared in the void. Soon after, the other 2 people also disappeared. They must have gone to meet up with their real bodies. Looking in the direction that the 3 had disappeared, Bai Mei Sanren made a guess. Then he said, "Brother Knight, you are in the sovereign realm, but you have not been defeated by 3 top earthly sovereigns. This is a talent that can be seen with the naked eye. Let me be your protector." Senior Bai Mei, Night Sorrow has grown up in battles. If I am taken care of by someone and have someone to rely on, I may lose my fighting direction. So, forget it. Night Sorrow replied and continued to fight for the opportunity in the void. The scene of him defeating the 3 half-step to earthly sovereigns had been seen by the people around him. Moreover, there were many resources in the void, so there was no one looking for trouble with him. Under such circumstances, Night Sorrow collected some more resources. Then he looked at Bai Mei Sanren and said, "Senior Bai Mei, can Night Sorrow ask you for a favor?" "What favor? What is it?" White-browed, unaffiliated cultivator smiled. "I am going to find a place to break through to the sovereign realm. If you have the ability, Please help Night Sorrow take care of my friends in the realm of the gods. Night Sorrow bowed to Baimei Sanrin and said, Clan M. Chapter 3063. Take care of them? No problem, but in my opinion, they don't need anyone to take care of them. Baimei Sanrin smiled as he looked down. At this moment, the people of the heavenly realm were fighting with the supremes of other territories. They were fighting for resources. They were fighting with supremes of the same height and were not at a disadvantage. At this point, no one had been absorbed into the eternal divine tower. Moreover, they had gained a lot. Night Sorrow followed Baimei Sanrin's gaze and looked over. Wan Jinzong immediately said, Brother Yi, come over. We have gathered a lot of resources. Together with what you have, you should be able to break through to the supremes. No need, Brother Wan. With Senior Whitebrow's help, I have obtained enough resources. I am going to break through to the supremes now. Take care of yourselves. Keep all the resources you have obtained. Night Sorrow looked at the people of the heavenly realm, then pointed at Baimei Sanrin and said, This is Senior Whitebrow. If you encounter any danger, you can ask him for help. Senior Whitebrow. When the people of the heavenly realm heard Night Sorrow's introduction, they immediately greeted Baimei Sanrin. Good. If you have any problems, send me a message. Whitebrow Wanderer greeted everyone and then flew up into the sky where there was no one else. No one could approach the height he could reach. Therefore, the best things were basically all taken by him. Seeing Baimei Sanrin fly to the highest altitude, Wan Jinzong could not help but sigh, if only I had such strength. If you had such strength, you would have entered the grotto heaven to fight for the good things. Yuan Fengxue joked after Wan Jinzong finished speaking. Then, they continued to fight for the resources in front of them. As for Night Sorrow, with Jing Yun's help, he returned to the grotto heaven and absorbed the various resources in peace. He had already reached the pinnacle of the sovereign realm. Now that he continued to absorb the earthly supreme's laws and essences, his body and soul quickly reached the pinnacle of the sovereign realm. At this peak, Night Sorrow encountered a small bottleneck. That was a mental shackle. In about 4 hours, he had successfully overcome it. These resources are truly divine. This was especially true for the supreme blood essence of a peak-grade supreme being. Its quality was simply heaven-defying. If I hadn't absorbed them, I would have needed tens of thousands of years of bitter cultivation to reach the supremacy level so quickly. And that was in the eternal sovereign world. If we were in the God realm, who knows how much time it would take? Night Sorrow, who slowly stood up from the grotto heaven, suddenly felt a little emotional. However, he didn't stop at all. He directly flew up into the void to welcome the lightning tribulation that was brewing. Logically speaking, the lightning tribulation energy body of the sovereign realm should be extremely powerful. However, Night Sorrow's heart was as calm as still water, without the slightest ripple. This was the confidence he had developed after transcending tribulations so many times. Not long after, the sovereign thunder tribulation body appeared. It was similar to Night Sorrow's tribulations in the past, but the energy contained in its body was obviously much stronger. After it appeared, it grabbed the lightning in its hand and struck towards Night Sorrow. Good timing. I can use your lightning to train my body. Night Sorrow, who was flying horizontally, held the golden heavenly halberd in his hand, but he didn't brandish it. Instead, he used his body to welcome the lightning attack of the lightning tribulation energy body. Being struck by lightning of such intensity, even if Night Sorrow's body was very strong, it was still very uncomfortable. However, he gritted his teeth and persevered. Still nothing. He attacked the lightning tribulation energy body and continued to rely on it to train his body. However, to Night Sorrow's surprise, this time, the lightning tribulation energy body seemed to have some intelligence. In a situation where its continuous attacks didn't have any effect, it suddenly chose to self-destruct. It wanted to use self-destruction to kill Night Sorrow. Jing Yun, quickly let me out of the small world. Night Sorrow, who realized that the lightning tribulation energy body was going to use self-destruction to kill him, immediately sent a voice transmission to Jing Yun. Husband, You can come out now. Jing Yun, who received the voice transmission, immediately recited the incantation. After she spoke, Night Sorrow immediately flew out of the small world. The moment he flew out, the lightning tribulation energy body completely exploded inside. It caused the entire world to tremble a few times. What happened there? The commotion was too big, and it immediately attracted the attention of many people. Many people locked their eyes on it. At this moment, Night Sorrow was gradually trying to restrain his aura. This was because he realized that after he had truly advanced to the Supreme Being level, he couldn't control his aura at all. His entire person looked radiant and colorful, which didn't match his character. Little brother Knight, congratulations on successfully advancing to the Supreme Being level. You have taken the most important step. Everyone who advances to the Supreme Being level will uncontrollably overflow their aura. You don't have to deliberately control it. At this moment, Bai Mei Sanren, who was originally continuing to fight for resources in the void, said with a smile. Senior Bai Mei, why did you say that I have taken the most important step? Hearing the other party's words, Night Sorrow asked in puzzlement. Supreme Being, Earth Supreme Being, Heaven Supreme Being, Supreme Being level. In fact, they are all Supreme Beings. And those below the Supreme Being level are ants. Now you are truly on your way. Bai Mei Sanren explained. Now that Senior has said it, it does seem to make sense. At the very least, I have caught up with one step. Night Sorrow nodded and continued, I still need to help my friends in the territory with resources. When the resources are enough for them to advance to the Supreme Being level, Senior and I will travel together and enter the Grotto Heaven to explore. How about that? Great. But don't call me Senior in the future. Just call me brother. Bai Mei Sanren said with a smile. This was the same as Emo Qianqian's address. Night Sorrow felt that it was quite natural to call him that, so he said, Then I will have to trouble you to wait for me for a while. You have helped me so much this time. We will strive to fight for suitable resources in the Grotto Heaven to help you advance to the Earth Supreme Being level. Speaking of which, it is strange. The rules and essences that can advance to the Earth Supreme Being level are clearly distributed in the fog. But for some reason, the 3,000 Grotto Heavens will drop some every time. It is strange. Bai Mei Sanren said doubtfully. He more or less knew some things about the 3 Grotto Heavens, but the extent of his understanding could only be considered superficial. Maybe this is called the will of the heavens. Maybe the heavens don't want the strength of both sides to be too unbalanced. Night Sorrow said and flew up into the sky. This time, his strength had advanced to the level of lower Supreme Being. It was much easier to fly up than when he was a half-step Supreme Being level. Soon, he flew to the height where Bai Mei Sanren was and collected some resources. After collecting for a while, Night Sorrow's mind suddenly moved. He found that there was an Earth Supreme Being level spear at a higher position. Clan M. Chapter 3064. A real earthly sovereign divine weapon. And it's a spear-shaped divine weapon. I must get it. The earthly sovereign divine weapon in the void wasn't shining brightly. On the contrary, it was faintly discernible black light. The range of the black light wasn't more than 100 meters, but it gave off an extremely powerful aura. After seeing it clearly, Night Sorrow immediately activated the Sea Serpent's eye to confirm it. Confirming that it was real and not a projection, he rose into the air again and flew towards the earthly sovereign divine spear. Originally, only Night Sorrow and Bai Mei Sanren could reach this height. Bai Mei Sanren didn't have any intention of fighting for it. When Night Sorrow, who had activated the Treastrimsa battle mystic technique, rose to the vicinity of the earthly sovereign divine weapon, there were no other competitors. When he got closer, Night Sorrow didn't immediately take it. Instead, he said, "Fight with me." Although it was only 4 words, Yishan had said them with confidence and a trace of soul attack technique was mixed into them. After he roared, his deep voice reverberated in the void. This was Night Sorrow's way of proving his strength. This was because he could already see that the earthly sovereign divine spear in front of him clearly had an artifact spirit. Moreover, the artifact spirit was also at the earthly sovereign level. Moreover, because it was a spear spirit, it gave off an extremely sharp feeling. It was very different from Little Seven on the 7th level of the Eternal Divine Tower. Night Sorrow could clearly tell that if he took it directly, he would definitely be met with an extremely violent counterattack. "You're not worthy." After about 3 breaths of time, the spear spirit suddenly spoke with disdain. "Oh, then why do you think I'm worthy?" Night Sorrow didn't get angry immediately after being despised by the spear spirit. Instead, he continued to ask, "Those below the earthly sovereign level are all ants. They can't stimulate the Overlord's war halberd's true strength, so you're not worthy." The Overlord's war halberd's weapon spirit glanced at Night Sorrow, then at the other cultivators present and said, "No one here is worthy. You're all trash." "Little weapon spirit, you sure talk big. Since you think I'm not worthy, I'll prove it to you. Submit." The roaring Night Sorrow had originally intended to use peaceful means before resorting to force. With a roar, he reached out to grab the halberd. "How dare you! How dare you offend my Overlord's war halberd? You're courting death." The weapon spirit of the Overlord war halberd flew into a rage when it saw Night Sorrow trying to grab the halberd. Controlling the Overlord's war halberd, he thrust it towards Night Sorrow's chest. "Even if you were a real earthly sovereign, so what if you were an earthly sovereign?" Facing the incoming Overlord battle halberd, Night Sorrow took out his golden heavenly halberd and performed his own Qingxian godly spear art. The Overlord's war halberd began to fight. After advancing to the earthly sovereign realm, Night Sorrow's true fighting strength was comparable to a practitioner who had just advanced to the earthly sovereign realm. Facing the Overlord's war halberd, he didn't feel much pressure. At most, he would face an opponent who was on par with him. Even though the golden heavenly halberd's grade was not as good as the Overlord's battle halberd, he was still able to handle it with ease. Soon, he was able to suppress it. After all, the Overlord's war halberd was not a real earthly sovereign. Its fighting strength was relatively average. It was only slightly stronger than a half-step earthly sovereign. It was not at the level of a real earthly sovereign. "You are very talented, but I, the Overlord's war halberd, will not submit to an earthly sovereign. If you are not an earthly sovereign, you will not be able to control me." The Overlord's war halberd refused to accept the fact that it was being suppressed. It continued to resist Night Sorrow. In its eyes, only an earthly sovereign was worthy of using it. No matter how talented an earthly sovereign was, he was not qualified. Interesting. The weapon that said that last time has already been integrated into the golden heavenly halberd. I think your ending will be the same as it. The Overlord's war halberd's grade was not bad. It was an earthly sovereign, but it was obviously unruly, just like what it had encountered before. Night Sorrow suddenly had the thought of integrating it into the golden heavenly halberd. Only then would it truly belong to him. "What? You want to integrate me? Dream on." Hearing that Night Sorrow wanted to integrate it, the weapon spirit of the Overlord's war halberd was completely enraged. It roared and controlled the Overlord's war halberd to transform into a warrior in purple armor. It then slashed at Night Sorrow violently. "Very strong. Is this the previous owner of the Overlord's war halberd? Indeed, he has the disposition of an Overlord." The Overlord's war halberd's attack was very powerful. It was as if it could tear the heavens and earth apart. Even as an opponent, Night Sorrow could feel the unyielding fighting spirit of the Overlord. After praising him, Yishang sighed and said, "What a pity. Although you were unparalleled in martial prowess, you have already fallen. I must take the Overlord's war halberd." At the same time, Night Sorrow used his pupil technique and shot it at the shadow. This ocular technique was comprehended by him during his battle with 100 Eyes. Its attack power was very strong. Light shot out from the eye of the sea serpent, and it immediately released a powerful aura that could destroy the heavens and earth. This overbearing aura was not inferior to the Overlord's war halberd's attack. "Let's fight." If you win, the Overlord's war halberd is yours. If you lose, then you are not worthy. To Night Sorrow's surprise, the shadow released by the Overlord's war halberd had its own consciousness. It had its own consciousness. Then, the shadow held the Overlord's war halberd in its hand and attacked, blocking the pupil technique. Alright, then let's fight. If I can't even defeat your shadow, then I am not worthy of your Overlord's war halberd. Although the opponent in front of him was only a shadow, his aura was very powerful. This meant that he was not just an ordinary earthly sovereign when he was alive. He was very likely one of the strongest earthly sovereigns. Facing him, Night Sorrow's fighting spirit completely exploded. Alright, let's fight. My divine weapon is stronger than yours. Let's give up our divine weapons and fight in close combat. The shadow of the Overlord's war halberd's owner put down the war halberd and chose to fight in close combat with Night Sorrow. No need. I, Night Sorrow, don't want to take advantage of you. If I can't even defeat an earthly sovereign shadow, what's the point of fighting for the Overlord's war halberd? Night Sorrow, who was holding the golden heavenly halberd, did not agree. He did not want to take advantage of his opponent. Very good. You have guts. The shadow of the Overlord's war halberd's owner roared and slashed horizontally at Night Sorrow with the Overlord's war halberd. This move appeared to be very simple. It was like a general on the battlefield chopping down horizontally. But Night Sorrow, who was facing it, felt that this move was not simple. This slash was like a blow that could split the heavens and earth. The momentum it contained was even more shocking than the momentum of the Azure Sea Tide. Good. It is indeed the Overlord's momentum. The name of the war halberd is right. Facing this attack, Night Sorrow roared and continued to use the Azure Cloud Divine Spear art to fight against it. The Overlord's war halberd was extremely terrifying to the golden heavenly halberd. He could not take it head-on, he could only use his skills to fight against it. Clan M. Chapter 3065. Not bad. However, dodging is not what a king should do. The Overlord battle halberd's owner roared after fighting for a while. After he spoke, Night Sorrow puffed out his chest and said, "A reckless man is not what a king should do." Night Sorrow did not agree with the Overlord battle halberd's owner's words and replied. What they understood was different. On the surface, it was a simple conversation. However, it was their understanding of Tao. Reckless man. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, the Overlord battle halberd's owner was stunned for a moment and said, "Since you said reckless man, then I'll let you have a taste of my reckless bull spear technique." As his voice fell, the Overlord battle halberd's owner immediately used the Overlord battle halberd to attack ferociously. Under such ferocious attacks, even if Night Sorrow used his Qingshen divine spear technique, it would be hard for him to block. Although the other party's attack seemed very reckless, it was bold and bold. It contained the boldness of an angry man who would splatter blood in 5 steps. Good spear technique. The frenzied bull spear art's attacks were like a frenzied bull galloping madly. It was very impactful. Facing such unreasonable attacks, Night Sorrow's golden heavenly halberd was indeed not easy to block. Because if he used it to block, the golden heavenly halberd might be in danger of breaking. Night Sorrow did not want that. However, if he did not make such a choice, he would be suppressed. The Overlord battle halberd's owner's attack was simply arrogant and unforgiving. It was as ferocious as a tiger and a dragon. Just when Night Sorrow was suppressed, the golden heavenly halberd suddenly trembled. Night Sorrow, who was holding it in his hand, could instantly feel its unyielding battle intent. Being suppressed like this, its battle intent completely surged. Golden heavenly halberd, I can feel your battle intent. Then, let's fight to our heart's content. Night Sorrow, who was holding the golden heavenly halberd, felt the surging battle intent of the golden heavenly halberd and a heroic feeling rose in his heart. With the golden heavenly halberd in hand, he once again used the Qingshen godly spear art to fight against the Overlord halberd's master's shadow. After choosing to meet force with force in this attack, Night Sorrow's spear technique was clearly superior in terms of technique. However, after the golden heavenly halberd collided with the Overlord's war halberd, cracks immediately appeared. Clearly, there was a huge gap between the golden heavenly halberd and the Overlord battle halberd. Kill. However, in this sort of situation, the golden heavenly halberd actually said the word, kill. Hearing this, Night Sorrow's heart was filled with killing intent. At this moment, in front of him, no matter what, nothing could stop the determination in his heart. Golden heavenly halberd. Kill. Night Sorrow roared as he poured his divine origin energy and merit power into the golden heavenly halberd. Then he performed the human spear unification technique. Together, they charged towards the Overlord's war halberd. Night Sorrow had learned this man-spear fusion from the Myriad Sword sect, but it had been a long time since he had used it. After becoming one with the spear, the aura released by the spear was clearly stronger. Boom! When the golden heavenly halberd and the Overlord battle halberd clashed once again, both of them were pushed back a lot. Night Sorrow and the golden heavenly halberd were separated, and the golden heavenly halberd was broken in the middle. As for the Overlord battle halberd, it was also broken. Both of them were basically on par. Broken? My Overlord battle halberd was broken by a half-step earthly sovereign divine weapon? The illusory figure of the Overlord battle halberd was floating in the void, looking at the broken Overlord battle halberd in disbelief. After pondering for a long time, he sighed and said, forget it, forget it. It's yours now. As for me, it's time for me to leave. After saying that, the illusory figure of the Overlord battle halberd turned into a rain of light in the void and completely dissipated. Night Sorrow, who was slightly injured, summoned the golden heavenly halberd into his hand. He stroked it gently and said, don't worry, I will fix you. Not only will I fix you, but I will also make you stronger. After that, Night Sorrow merged the broken Overlord battle halberd into the golden heavenly halberd. No matter how tough the Overlord battle halberd was, it did not belong to him. However, the golden heavenly halberd was different. The golden heavenly halberd had already merged perfectly with Night Sorrow. Not only this time, but in the future he was not going to let any other divine weapon take its place. If there was something good, let it devour it. After that, Night Sorrow floated in the void, trying his best to forge a brand new golden heavenly halberd. However, this time was different from the previous time. After Night Sorrow repaired the golden heavenly halberd, he realized that although it was as tough as an earthly sovereign, it did not have the aura of an earthly sovereign divine weapon. Why is that? Standing in the void, Night Sorrow was puzzled. An ordinary divine weapon was either a half-step earthly sovereign divine weapon or an earthly sovereign divine weapon. However, the golden heavenly halberd was in between the two. This is because your strength is not enough, and the earthly sovereign rules and essence that you have infused into it is not enough. Therefore, the spear in your hand is still a bit away from the earthly sovereign rules and essence. At this time, Baimei Sanrin, who was 1,000 meters away from Night Sorrow, explained. Is that so? Is that so? Night Sorrow understood what was going on. When he spoke, he was thinking about something. Therefore, his words were not coherent. It's like this. However, it should still have the potential to continue growing. I think that if you can advance to an intermediate sovereign, you should be able to make it a real earthly sovereign divine weapon. However, when it advances, it will face an extremely terrifying lightning tribulation. You have to be prepared. Baimei Sanrin continued. Thank you, Senior. Night Sorrow held the brand new golden heavenly halberd and flew to Baimei Sanrin's side. He said, Senior, I have suffered some injuries and need to recover. After I recover, let's go to the grotto heaven together. What do you think? Sure. That's exactly what I want. Baimei Sanrin said with a smile. All right. Senior, wait for me. Night Sorrow said and once again rose to a height where no one could see him. In the void, he consumed some high-grade elixirs that he had just obtained and recovered. An opportunity like this would not last for long. Therefore, he did not want to waste too much time on recovering from his injuries. After about 2 hours, Night Sorrow had completely recovered. He flew to Baimei Sanrin's side and said, Senior, let's go. Let's go to the teleportation portal together. All right. However, I have to remind you that the grotto heaven is very dangerous. On the way to the teleportation portal, Baimei Sanrin explained, The actual masters of the three grotto heavens are Tianshao territory, Mingyan territory, and immortal extinction territory. If you go in, you will offend them. You have to think carefully. The three grotto heavens are actually controlled by them? Jing Yun did not know about this at all because the armored zombie's memory did not have it. This was also the first time Bai Mei Sanren mentioned it. Hearing this, Night Sorrow immediately understood why Tianshao territory would send such a lineup. They were preparing to guard the grotto heaven's opportunity. Genius memorized this site's address in a second. Human mobile version reading website, M. Chapter 3066. It's controlled by these big forces. If you want to barge in, you might have to pay with your life. Are you sure you dare to go? Bai Mei Sanren, who had explained the situation of the grotto heaven, did not show any fear. I'm not afraid, but I need to understand that if I can escape unscathed, it's meaningless to send myself to death. After Yishang said this, he continued to ask, Senior, the teleportation array in the grotto heaven can be used at will. After entering, can you teleport out at any time? You can teleport in and out. But the teleportation array outside has no handle. There are people guarding the teleportation array inside. It's very difficult to enter or leave. Bai Mei Sanren continued to explain. Hearing this, Night Sorrow smiled and said, Since we can enter and leave, there's nothing to worry about. Senior, let's go. You don't want to reconsider? Bai Mei Sanren asked with a smile. As for the matter of entering the grotto heaven, he was more willing to leave it to fate. There's no need to reconsider. Senior, let's hurry up. Night Sorrow said with certainty. He felt that the two of them were already late, so they had to hurry up. Otherwise, they would not be able to make it in time. Before entering, Night Sorrow summoned back the restriction-breaking hammer and carried it with him. As for Little Seven, he was left outside to take care of the other people in the realm of the gods. Let's go. Let's go to the teleportation array. There's a fortuitous opportunity inside. At this time, there might not be anyone guarding the other side of the teleportation array. This is the best time to enter. Bai Mei Sanren said as he brought Night Sorrow to the teleportation array and stood on it. After Night Sorrow took out the divine crystal to activate the teleportation array, the two of them were immediately teleported to the grotto heaven. The three grotto heavens were a space that was independent of the 3,000 small worlds. This world was not like the 3,000 small grotto heavens, where each of them was so small and cramped together. The three grotto heavens occupied a vast space. The three grotto heavens each had their own large territory. They formed a tripartite balance of power. The place where Night Sorrow and Bai Mei Sanren landed was the only public area in the small world. It was located at the intersection of the three grotto heavens. The moment they landed, Night Sorrow's pupils shrank. Every territory of the three holy lands had sent people to guard this place. After a quick count, he found that each territory had sent out 5 supreme beings to guard the area. Who are you two? Do you know where you are? Get out of here. In the instant that Night Sorrow's pupils constricted, the paragons of the three holy lands appeared one after the other, followed by Bai Mei Sanren. A half-step earthly sovereign from the Tianshao territory immediately scolded. In fact, if not for the fact that Bai Mei Sanren had given him an unfathomable feeling, he would definitely have attacked. Hearing this, Night Sorrow and Bai Mei Sanren looked at each other and moved together. He directly attacked. To them, 15 supreme martial artists was not an undefeatable force. How dare you? Kill all of them. The half-step earthly sovereign from the Tianshao territory, Mo Tianyun, roared furiously. The people from the celestial extinction territory and the life extension territory also attacked. At this moment, Mo Tianyun transmitted his voice. Sir, there are intruders. Their strength should be above mine. We may not be able to deal with them. Should you come back and deal with them? Hold them back. This time, the opportunity from the heavens is different. If I'm not wrong, there will definitely be treasures that have never appeared before. I can't leave now. The 100 Spirits Territory's supreme being from the Tianshao territory replied. This time, There were obviously more good things than before. He had no time to care about anything else. Sir, I will hold them back with the people from the other territories. Mo Tianyun replied and attacked with the others. Mo Tianyun's target was Night Sorrow, who was fighting with the 6 supreme martial artists. In his opinion, Night Sorrow had just entered the Supreme Being realm and would definitely be easier to deal with than Bai Mei Sanren. However, he and the other supreme martial artists fought with Night Sorrow for a while. Mo Tianyun completely felt that something was wrong, because even if he and the others joined forces, they were still no match for Night Sorrow. They were constantly defeated. Mo Tianyun roared angrily, "Who knows who this supreme martial artist is? He seems to be the Night Sorrow who defeated Mu Tianai in the battle for Providence. I didn't expect him to have grown to such an extent." One of the supreme martial artists replied. He was also guessing, but he guessed right. Hearing this, Tianyun frowned and said coldly, "Night Sorrow? What a Night Sorrow! Not to mention that he stole the providence of the Tianshao territory. And he's still scheming for the opportunity from the heavens. I want you dead." While roaring, Mo Tianyun suddenly took out a long sword from his sleeve. This long sword immediately let out a beast-like roar when it was taken out. And when this long sword was taken out, the other cultivators who used swords all lost control of their swords. At the same time that Mo Tianyun slashed his sword at Night Sorrow, he transmitted his voice to the 2 leaders of the Terminating Immortal Territory and Life Extension Territory. "This kid is Night Sorrow. Since it's from the divine realm, let's destroy it together. I also want to help you, but this opponent of mine is too strong. I'm afraid he already has the strength of an earthly sovereign." Zhu Wuchen, the leader of the Extreme Immortal Territory, said unhappily. As for Ming Ming, the leader of Ming Yan's territory, he was suppressed by Bai Mei Sanren to the point that he could not even speak. "Good sword." Facing Mo Tianyun's long sword, Yishang shouted loudly. He could tell that the long sword in Mo Tianyun's hand was a genuine earthly sovereign divine weapon. Its grade was even above the golden heavenly halberd. However, the hardness of the golden heavenly halberd was not inferior to an earthly sovereign. Hence, he was naturally fearless. He used the Qingxian godly spear technique to resist it. After this battle, Night Sorrow realized that he had become an earthly sovereign. It was much easier for him to face a half-step earthly sovereign. Although his opponent had used an earthly sovereign divine weapon, it did not give him much pressure. Becoming an earthly sovereign is really different. No one below earthly sovereign should be my match. In the battle of 1 against 7, Night Sorrow suddenly felt invincible. Then, with his own strength, he completely suppressed Mo Tianyun and the rest. "Looks like you can't stop us." After suppressing everyone, Night Sorrow looked at Bai Mei Sanren's side. His side was also in a one-sided situation. The earthly sovereigns guarding the pass were no match for them. However, the earthly sovereigns of the 3 Holy Lands were still difficult to deal with. After fighting for a long time, Night Sorrow and Bai Mei Sanren only killed 3 of them. At this moment, Mo Tianyun transmitted his voice to the 100 Spirits Territory's sovereign again. "Sir, we can't stop them. A few of us have already been killed. What should we do?" "Ignore them." The 100 Spirits Territory's sovereign of the 100 Spirits Territory replied and did not say anything else. Clan. Chapter 3067. Ignore them? Tianshao Territory's 100 Spirits Earth Sovereign responded. Mo Tianyun immediately understood that the fight for the treasure this time would be very intense, much more intense than he had imagined. Since he was running anyway, he flew directly toward the location of the heavenly opportunity. He thought to himself, no matter how strong the 2 of you are, you won't have the ability to overturn the situation when facing the 3 earthly sovereigns of the major territories. After Tianshao Territory's Mo Tianyun escaped, the people of Immortal Extinction Territory and Life Extension Territory also fled in all directions. They escaped. Forget it. Don't chase. Let's go straight for the opportunity. Bai Mei Sanren had the upper hand in the battle just now, but he did not kill anyone. The 3 people who had been killed had all died at Yishang's hands. Seeing that Night Sorrow was about to attack Emotianyun, Bai Mei Sanren advised him, "If you don't kill the snake, it will be in trouble." After Bai Mei Sanren's advice, Night Sorrow, who could have killed Emotianyun in one blow, did not attack. He was giving face to his seniors. However, although they did not chase after Emotianyun, they went the same way as him and quickly passed by him. The heavenly opportunity caused a huge commotion. There was no need for Emotianyun to lead the way. Night Sorrow and Bai Mei Sanren could also find the place to fight for the opportunity. When they reached the place, the two found that the heavenly opportunity was at the top of a mountain covered in dense fog. There were about 100 people present at this time. Looking at their clothes, they should be people from the 3 holy lands. Among the opportunities that fell from the void, there were heavenly sovereign rules and essences. These essences decreased very quickly and were very difficult to capture. This was because these heavenly sovereign rules and essences had all turned into the shape of animals. They looked like spirits that could dodge by themselves. At this time, the 100 cultivators present were all capturing these spirits. Heavenly sovereign rules and essences. They are heavenly sovereign rules and essences. If you can get some, you can quickly recover to the earthly sovereign level. Seeing the heavenly sovereign rules and essences floating in the void, Bai Mei Sanren's eyes immediately lit up. "Then should we just go up and snatch it?" Night Sorrow said as he observed the situation. At this moment, the people from the 3 holy lands were all trying to capture the heavenly sovereign's law and essence. As for the spirits formed from these rules and essences, as long as they landed on the mountain, they would fuse with the earth. It hadn't always existed. If they were to make a move now, the supremes of the 3 territories might not necessarily pay attention to them. However, it was still very dangerous for the 2 of them to face more than 100 supreme martial artists. Men die for wealth, birds die for food. Let's go. Let's talk about it later. After all, there are only 3 earthly sovereigns here. The others are not much of a threat to us. You don't know how hard it is to obtain a heavenly supreme's laws and essence. Bai Mei Sanren could not remain calm in the face of a heavenly supreme's laws and essence. If he could snatch enough precepts and essences, not only could he recover to the level of an earthly sovereign, but he could also make great strides in the earthly sovereign realm. He felt that it was worth risking his life for the sake of these laws and essences. All right, then let's go. If they attack us, we'll make sure they don't get anything. With Bai Mei Sanren's words, Night Sorrow also steeled his heart and flew into the void with him. At this moment, although the supremes of the 3 territories noticed Night Sorrow and Bai Mei Sanren, these 2 uninvited guests, none of them attacked them. They were all frantically trying to capture the heavenly supreme's laws and essence. Even the people from the 3 holy lands could not resist the temptation of these precepts and essences. When snatching, keep a low profile. Once we've snatched enough, we'll retreat. We have to leave before the fight for the opportunity ends. Bai Mei Sanren immediately transmitted his voice to Night Sorrow when he realized that no one from the 3 holy lands spoke. He knew that if they waited until the fight for the opportunity ended before leaving, it would be very dangerous. All right, we'll leave after we get some gains. Night Sorrow's goal was to snatch the precepts and essences that would allow him to advance to an intermediate sovereign. According to his estimation, this would require him to obtain about 20 fairies. After replying to Bai Mei Sanren, he flew into the void and tried to capture the Heavenly Supreme's laws and essences from the periphery. Mo Tianyun, who had just arrived, saw that the Heavenly Supreme's laws and essences were continuously descending from the void. He was stunned. Ignoring Night Sorrow and Bai Mei Sanren, he directly rushed forward. In the past, the Grotto Heaven would not descend Heavenly Supreme's laws and essences like this. What was going on this time? These little things are really slippery. After joining the army of Heavenly Supreme's laws and essences, Night Sorrow tried to capture them and realized that these fairies were very difficult to capture. He could not help but use the Shen-Tian secret shadow. If he did not use it, he would not be able to catch up to these fairies. At this moment, The people from the three Holy Lands were all frantically capturing the fairies and did not have the time to pay attention to him. Thus, no one noticed that he was using the 9 Mysteries territory's remarkable ability. After about an hour, Night Sorrow successfully captured 7 fairies. In terms of numbers, he was ahead of Bai Mei Sanren. At this moment, Bai Mei Sanren had captured 5. Brother Night Sorrow, good technique. When we escape later, I'm afraid none of them will be able to catch up. Bai Mei Sanren, who glanced at Night Sorrow, laughed and joked. Then, he continued, let's each capture a little more before we leave. The Heavenly Supreme's laws and essences are descending more and more. I'm afraid it's going to end soon. But I can leave at any time. Night Sorrow replied and continued to chase after the fairies. However, at this moment, some special fairies suddenly descended from the void. Originally, these fairies were all sky blue. The new fairies that descended were pure gold in color and emitted a bright light. They looked very dazzling. The rules and essence they contained were obviously not something that ordinary fairies could compare to. However, only 10 of these little sprites would descend at a time. When the 3 earthly sovereigns saw the golden fairies descending from the sky, they stopped chasing after the blue fairies. Each of them picked a golden fairy and chased after it. For earthly sovereigns like them, the heavenly sovereign's rules and essence was the best way to increase their strength. Their importance was self-evident, and none of them were in the mood to deal with Night Sorrow and Bai Mei Sanren. At this moment, Night Sorrow and Bai Mei Sanren exchanged glances. They both understood each other's intentions, which was to fight for the golden sprite. Let's each grab one and run. This was because a golden sprite's aura was 20 times stronger than an ordinary sprite's. Snatching one was equivalent to snatching 20 blue sprites. Bastard, how dare you plot against the golden fairy? Seeing Night Sorrow and Bai Mei Sanren trying to snatch the golden elf, Yi Zichen was stunned. The Heavenly Owl Territory's 100 Spirits earthly sovereign was furious. However, after he roared, the golden fairy in front of him had already run a distance away. After thinking for a while, the 100 Spirits earthly sovereign decided to chase after the golden fairy. However, he roared, the 2 of you are fishing in troubled waters. Don't think that this matter will end peacefully. Clang. Chapter 3068. The Sovereign of the 100 Spirits' Holy Land roared in a loud voice that shook the heavens and the earth. However, he did not attack Night Sorrow or Bai Mei Sanren immediately because the golden elf in front of him was obviously more important than the 2 of them. At that moment, the rest of the people from the 3 Holy Lands saw that the 100 Spirits Land Sovereign had no intention of attacking. They continued to capture the Heavenly Supreme's rules and essence. The people from the 3 Holy Lands are really utilitarian. If it were an ordinary person, they would attack even if they had to give up the resources in front of them. They can really endure what ordinary people can't. The 100 Spirits Land Sovereign and the rest did not attack. Since Bai Mei Sanren was capturing the golden elf, they smiled and sent a voice transmission to Night Sorrow. They are doing things according to their own interests. After saying that, Night Sorrow continued to track the golden sprite. However, the golden elf's speed was too fast. Even he could not catch up. Looks like I have to use some tricks. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow immediately used the Divine Vitality Trap Array on the golden elf that he was chasing. However, he realized that the Divine Vitality Trap Array could not trap the golden elf at all. Then, Night Sorrow took out the Fire Beacon Smoke diagram and used it on the golden elf. The moment he used it, it was immediately effective. The golden elf that he was chasing immediately became confused and flew towards Night Sorrow's position. The Fire Beacon Smoke diagram was originally replaced by the Eternal Life Amplification Spear. I didn't expect it to be so useful now. When the golden elf flew over, Night Sorrow immediately captured it. The scene of Night Sorrow capturing the golden elf naturally did not escape the eyes of the people from the 3 Holy Lands. However, the 100 Spirits Land Sovereign and the rest did not attack or stop him. At that moment, Bai Mei Sanren reminded, they are not attacking. This is obviously strange. They want us to capture the essence for them and then attack us. When I succeed, we will leave. Alright, Senior, I will help you. After saying that, Night Sorrow used the fire beacon smoke diagram again to trap the golden elf that Bai Mei Sanren was chasing. After that, Bai Mei Sanren easily succeeded. With this golden fairy, you should be able to advance to Earth's sovereign. Although there were countless resources in front of him, his life was still more important. Let's go! Bai Mei Sanren beamed with joy as soon as he received the golden elf. He was truly happy. After all, the laws and essence of a heavenly exalt were extremely difficult to find in the eternal exalt world. Almost no one had seen it before. We need to leave immediately. If we leave now, they won't have time to bother with us. The words he had obtained were enough for him to advance to intermediate utmost exalted. Night Sorrow was quite satisfied with such a harvest. He also wanted to retreat in one piece. However, before they could fly far, Night Sorrow suddenly stopped and said, "Senior White Brow, let's go back and continue fighting for resources." Why is that? When Bai Mei Sanren heard this, he was obviously stunned. The two of them were clearly prepared to withdraw. If they took the risk to go back now, the losses would outweigh the gains. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Nothing will happen. Night Sorrow smiled and said to Bai Mei Sanren. Then, he flew toward the location of the heavenly opportunity again. Are you really okay? Bai Mei Sanren looked at Night Sorrow's back and thought, the resources in front of us are indeed tempting. It's not impossible to take a gamble. Then, he followed Night Sorrow back to the location of the heavenly opportunity again. When he saw Night Sorrow and White Brow, he returned. The 100 Spirits Land Sovereign, who had just captured a golden elf, said coldly, "How dare you? How dare you come back? Do you really think the people of the 3 holy lands are useless?" "That's right, I'm treating you like chickens and dogs. So what?" Night Sorrow replied disdainfully. Then he continued to capture golden elves. In a short while, he had captured 2 golden elves in succession. As for the 100 Spirits Land supremacy, he had wanted to use this opportunity to take down Yishang. However, at this moment, more than 20 golden elves descended from the sky. With these heavenly sovereign rules and elves descending, the 100 Spirits Land Sovereign could no longer remain calm. He started to capture them again. As for the earthly sovereigns from the Celestial Extinction Territory and the Fate Yen Territory, they did not say anything. They had been chasing after the golden elves. However, the two of them had already locked onto Night Sorrow and Bai Mei Sanren's golden elves. Once the heavenly opportunity was over, they would immediately take action. This time, no matter what, I will not let you leave. After capturing the heavenly sovereign rules and elves, the 100 Spirits Land Sovereigns snorted coldly. Then we shall wait and see. Night Sorrow replied and began to frantically capture the golden fairies. With the help of the fire beacon smoke picture, his efficiency was about 5 times that of the others. The 100 Spirits Land Sovereign had only captured 1 golden elf, but Night Sorrow had already captured 5. He had also helped Bai Mei Sanren to capture 2. Brother, I think we should retreat now. We have already obtained so much. It's enough. If we continue to persist, we will be taking risks. At this moment, Bai Mei Sanren's heart was pounding. Their gains were simply too great. It was more than the gains of the 3 earthly sovereigns from the 3 holy lands. This made him break out in cold sweat. Although he had once commanded the world, he had not yet recovered to the level of an earthly sovereign. Facing the 3 earthly sovereigns and so many earthly sovereigns, he was still a little weak. Hearing this, Night Sorrow smiled and said, "Senior, don't worry. I am not a reckless person. I have my reasons for doing this. Alright, this time, I will risk my life to accompany you." After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Bai Mei Sanren gritted his teeth and said, he could not think of any trump card that Night Sorrow had that could guarantee their safety. However, Night Sorrow's attitude was so firm that he believed him. After that, Night Sorrow and Bai Mei Sanren continued to capture golden elves. Not long after, the golden elves, who were constantly dodging, were all captured. At this point, Night Sorrow had captured 12 golden elves. Baimei Sanrin had captured 5 golden elves. The two of them had captured 17 golden elves. This was more than the gains of the 3 earthly sovereigns from the 3 holy lands. At this moment, the void was silent for a while, and no more opportunities were bestowed upon them. No one knew if the opportunities had ended, or if they were preparing for a new one. At this time, the 100 Spirits Land Sovereign had completely locked onto Night Sorrow and Baimei Sanrin. He said coldly, "The two of you are really bold. How dare you snatch the opportunities of our 3 holy lands again and again? Have you lost your mind? This is the opportunity of the eternal sovereign world. However, it was once monopolized by the two of you. In the future, this will never happen again." Yi Shang replied coldly as he looked at the sovereign of the 100 Spirits Land. "Ha! You're really an undisciplined and out-of-control youngster. However, you dare to spout nonsense in front of me. What awaits you is the destruction of your soul." At this time, the earthly sovereign from the celestial lands suddenly spoke. Genius remembered this site's address in a second. Human mobile version reading website. Chapter 3069. Someone's soul will be destroyed today, but it won't be me. Night Sorrow said fearlessly as he faced the celestial extinction territory's heartless earthly sovereign. He didn't take him seriously at all. "Brother Night Sorrow, where did you get your confidence from?" At this moment, Whitebrow Wanderer felt a little guilty. He didn't know where Night Sorrow had gotten his confidence from, and he couldn't figure out how he could suppress the people from the 3 holy lands. "Don't worry. The two of us will be safe and sound today. If you don't die, then who will?" After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Yen Hong, earthly sovereign from the Life Evolution territory, asked disdainfully. In his opinion, or perhaps in the eyes of others, Night Sorrow had gone completely crazy. Even the word "courting death" could not describe him. "At least one of the 3 of you will die. As for who it will be, that will depend on fate." Night Sorrow sneered as he looked at the 3 earthly sovereigns. There was a tinge of pity in his eyes. "The two of you, why are you still talking nonsense with him? Hurry up and kill him." The 100 Spirits earthly sovereign from the Sky Owl territory couldn't help but roar as he prepared to attack Night Sorrow. In his eyes, Night Sorrow was just a fly that he could kill with a swat. However, at that moment, a loud voice suddenly came from the void. "100 Spirits earthly sovereign, please wait." "Who is it?" The voice sounded as if it had been whispered into everyone's ears. The 100 Spirits earthly sovereign from the Sky Owl territory didn't even know where the person was and immediately became alert. At that moment, a figure suddenly appeared in the void. It was the Supreme Longevity. However, he was now in the appearance of Feng Wuji. After he spoke, he summoned a large number of earthly sovereigns from the 9 mysterious territory. When Night Sorrow was about to retreat, the Supreme Longevity had sent him a message asking him to come back and continue capturing the golden spirits. Otherwise, Night Sorrow, who was very confident in Supreme Longevity, would naturally choose to return. Besides, Supreme Longevity had also sent a voice transmission to Night Sorrow and told him some things. Hence, Night Sorrow couldn't leave. "Limitless earthly sovereign, it's you. What are you doing here?" Now that the person who had arrived was Feng Wuji, the 100 Spirits Land supremacy of the Heavenly Owl territory calmed down. Hearing this, the Supreme Longevity that was disguised as Feng Wuji said, "I'll get straight to the point. The 3 territories have occupied the 3 grotto heavens for so many years. It should be my 9 profound territories' turn." "Feng Wuji, oh Feng Wuji, just based on the strength of your 9 mystical estate, you still dare to challenge our 3 great territories? Who gave you the courage?" Before the Sky Owl territory's 100 Spirit Earth supremacy could say anything, the Extreme Immortal territory's Heartless Earth supremacy shouted in disdain. "My strength gave me the courage to do so. Today, at least one of the 3 territories will have to leave. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless." Supreme Longevity said coldly after Heartless Earth supremacy had spoken. "I think the 9 mystical estate should be the one to leave. Yen Hong, earthly sovereign from the Life Extension territory, also had a disdainful look on his face. In his opinion, the 3 great territories present were all stronger than the 9 mystical estate. There was no need to fear them at all. Do the 3 of you have the same opinion? Supreme Longevity looked coldly at the 3 earthly sovereigns after Yen Hong had spoken. So what if we do? Go back to where you came from. I will consider letting the 9 mystical estate continue to be a sacred land. Otherwise, we will kick all of you out. There will only be 3 sacred lands in the eternal supreme world. The 100 Spirits Land Supremacy of the Sky Owl territory glanced at Night Sorrow and said, "Is the source of your confidence Feng Wuji? Do you think a mere 9 mystical estate can suppress our 3 sacred lands?" These words were extremely arrogant, and everyone in the 9 mystical estate was enraged. The people of the 9 mystical estate had always considered themselves as the 4 sacred lands. Now that they were being looked down upon by the 3 sacred lands, one could imagine how they felt. "You'd better prepare for your funeral." Night Sorrow smiled and shook his head in the face of the provocation from the Sky Owl territory's 100 Spirits Land Supremacy. After Night Sorrow had spoken, Supreme Longevity looked askance at the earthly sovereigns of the 3 sacred lands. "Since that's the case, then all of you can die here. The 3 sacred land suppression of the 9 mystical estate will end today. Kill." After Supreme Longevity had spoken, the cultivators of the 9 mystical estate all roared angrily. They, who had been looked down upon, were filled with a strong fighting spirit. You overestimate yourselves. Just based on your insignificant 9 profound territory, where did your confidence come from? After Supreme Longevity had spoken, the 100 Spirits Land Supremacy of the Sky Owl territory snorted coldly. "Everyone, let's attack together and kill the people of the 9 mystical estate and that little bastard Night Sorrow. That's right, we can't let that old thing go either. Yes, kill." After the 100 Spirits Land Supremacy had spoken, the people of the 3 sacred lands were filled with fighting spirit. In their hearts, they had always believed that they were invincible because they had always been invincible in the eternal supreme world. At this moment, Supreme Longevity spoke again. "Night Sorrow. The Divine World territory has submitted to the 9 mystical estate. Today I, Feng Wuji, will protect you. In the future, fight for the 9 mystical estate with peace of mind. Yes, Wuji heavenly supremacy." When Yi Shang heard this, he immediately replied. In fact, Supreme Longevity and Night Sorrow had killed 2 birds with 1 stone by asking the Divine World territory to submit to the 9 mystical estate on the surface. First, the Divine World territory would be protected by the 9 mystical estate, and ordinary territories would not dare to attack them. Second, on the surface, they were asking the Divine World territory to submit to the 9 mystical estate, but in reality, they were preparing to completely control the 9 mystical estate and use the 9 mystical estate as a shell to rise again. They would allow the Divine World territory to stand at the peak of the eternal supreme world. Wuji heavenly supremacy? At this moment, the people from the other territories were engaged in a fierce battle. When Night Sorrow called out the name Wuji heavenly supremacy, the 3 earthly supremacies from the 3 holy lands were stunned. They could not believe what they had heard. However, after thinking for a while, they realized that something was amiss. They thought to themselves, if Feng Wuji is not a heavenly supremacy, how could he be so confident? When they realized it, it was already too late. After Longevity Supremacy made his move, he quickly killed the 100 Spirits Earth Supremacy of the Sky Owl territory. The difference between a heavenly supremacy and an earthly supremacy was greater than any other realm. The arrogant 100 Spirits Earth Supremacy did not have the ability to resist Supreme Longevity. What should we do now? The 100 Spirits Earth Supremacy was killed instantly. Yen Hong Earthly Supremacy from the Life Extension Estate and Ju Exen Earthly Supremacy from the Celestial Supremacy were completely stunned. What should we do now? Of course, we'll kill both of you. Supreme Longevity said coldly as he looked at the 2 of them. Genius memorized this site's address in a second. Human mobile reading website, M. Chapter 3070. Supreme Longevity had no intention of going easy on the earthly sovereigns of the three Holy Lands. This frightened Yen Hong and Zhu Xian of Life Extension territory. Yen Hong immediately begged for mercy. Limitless Heavenly Sovereign, please go easy on us. Ming Yen is willing to let go of the Grotto Heaven. As soon as he finished, Heartless Earth Supreme said, the Extreme Immortal Land is willing to do the same. Do you think the two of you can make the decision? Supreme Longevity said in disdain. Then he waved his hand and attacked. The pupils of Earthly Supremacy Yen Hong and Earthly Supremacy Zhu Xian shrank when they saw Earthly Supremacy Chong Xing taking action. Zhu Xian shouted, Feng Wuji, don't think that you're the only one who has become a heavenly sovereign. Zhu Xian also has a heavenly sovereign in Zhu Xian. Even if you threaten me, you won't be able to change the fact that your soul will be destroyed. Supreme Longevity said coldly. Then he turned Zhu Xian into dust. Witnessing this scene, Earthly Sovereign Yen Hong of Ming Yan's territory was scared out of his wits. He said, Limitless Heavenly Sovereign. Ming Yan is willing to cooperate with Jiao Xian. We'll fight against Tianshao and Zhu Xian. Do you think you can make the decision? Supreme Longevity Sovereign hovered in the void and looked at Earthly Sovereign Yen Hong, who was in Ming Yan's territory. In fact, he had purposely left Yen Hong for last. This was because he knew that Yen Hong, the Earthly Sovereign of the Fate Yen territory, was the son of the only heavenly sovereign in the Fate Yen territory, Yen Xinglia. Moreover, Yen Xinglia only had one son. Usually, the matters of Ming Yen territory were all handled by Earthly Sovereign Yen Hong. Seeing that Supreme Longevity did not make any promises, Yen Hong nodded. Yen Hong immediately promised, I can make the decision, I can make the decision. Ming Yen is willing to form an alliance with Jiao Xian. Your words alone are not enough. If you can get Yen Xinglia here and make him say something, it'll be better. Supreme Longevity looked at Yen Hong and said with a murderous aura. However, under his control, the murderous aura was weaker. I'll summon my father now. Seeing that there was a chance to live, Yen Hong, the Earthly Sovereign, did not think about anything else. Immediately, he took out a jade talisman and crushed it. After he crushed the jade talisman, a tall figure immediately appeared before the crowd. The figure was Yen Xinglia, the heavenly sovereign of Ming Yen territory. After the two earthly sovereigns had been killed, the battle had stopped. The Supremes of the Sky Owl territory and the Immortal Extremity territory had already given up on resisting. Feng Wuji, you've also come this far, so you already have the capital to discuss and cooperate with me. After Yen Xinglia appeared, he sized up Supreme Longevity and said, Cooperation or war? Supreme Longevity went straight to the point. My only son has already fallen into your hands. Even if my true body rushed over at the fastest speed possible, I still wouldn't be able to stop you from killing him. There's no reason for me to refuse to cooperate. Yen Xinglia's silhouette said unhappily. Yen Xinglia, aren't you looking down on me too much? Whether you agree to the alliance or not. I, Feng Wuji, will not kill Yen Hong today. Supreme Longevity said nonchalantly. He had no intention of using Yen Hong to threaten Yen Xinglia. Hearing this, Yen Xinglia's silhouette was silent for a while before he asked, Are you confident that you can deal with the person from Sky Owl territory? In a one-on-one fight, I, Feng Wuji, am the most powerful person in the myriad world. Supreme Longevity replied confidently. He had once been the most powerful person among the tens of thousands of territories. Although he had taken over a body, he was still the most powerful person. However, his outstanding talent had decreased along with the transformation of his body. That's good to hear. Ming Yen territory is willing to form an alliance with Jiao Xian territory. As for the details, you will have to wait until I visit Jiao Xian territory personally. Yen Xinglia said one last sentence before he disappeared into the void. At this moment, Yen Hong felt as if he had just survived a disaster. He cupped his fists and said, Heavenly Sovereign Wuji, I have offended you today. Please forgive me. It's okay. We will be allies from now on. Supreme Longevity smiled and looked at the cultivators from Sky Owl territory and Immortal Sword territory. I, Feng Wuji, will not kill you useless soldiers. Get lost. The opportunity before you has nothing to do with you anymore. Thank you, Heavenly Sovereign Wuji. The cultivators who didn't expect to be spared heard this and flew toward the teleportation array one after another. Supreme Longevity continued, you may be spared from death, but you cannot escape punishment. Leave behind everything you have gained today. Heavenly Sovereign Wuji. The cultivators from Sky Owl territory and Immortal Extinction territory did not dare to disobey. They obediently left behind everything they had gained today. Seeing that they did as they were told, Paragon Chongqing looked at Yen Hong and said, take the items. However, Jiuxian territory will join the fight for the resources after this. Of course, I will not interfere. Alright. Yen Hong will accept your offer then. Yen Hong, who did not manage to get much, raised an eyebrow when he heard Supreme Longevity's words. He excitedly kept everything from the two territories. However, he did not have the storage bags of the two Earth Sovereigns, so he did not gain much. After the cultivators from the two territories left, Supreme Longevity called Night Sorrow and Yen Hong before him. Yen Hong, this is Night Sorrow who won the battle for Providence. I believe you know him. I have calculated before. He is the eternal Supreme World's Son of Providence. We must work together in the future. Inform the subordinate territories that they are not allowed to go against the God World territories in the future. Yes. Heavenly Sovereign Wuji. Yen Hong replied after hearing Supreme Longevity's words. However, he still had doubts in his heart. He did not understand why Jiuxian territory suddenly changed their attitude toward the God World territories. I know what you are thinking. However, going against Night Sorrow is going against the entire eternal Supreme World. You will understand in the future. Our future enemies will not only be Tianshao territory and Immortal Extinction territory. There will be even more terrifying opponents. Go ask your father about this matter. He can help you resolve your doubts. Supreme Longevity continued. He knew about the great calamity, but Yen Hong did not. Yen Hong immediately replied, Yen Hong is willing to listen to Heavenly Sovereign Wuji's arrangements. There is no such thing as arrangements. The opportunity is about to descend. The two of you should go and fight for it. This time, rely on your own abilities. Do not engage in unnecessary fights. Supreme Longevity said and pointed to the void. At this moment, the originally quiet void was suddenly filled with the sound of thunder. In fact, this opportunity should have descended long ago. It was just that Supreme Longevity had used some tricks to conceal it. Genius memorized this site's address. Human mobile version reading website. Chapter 3071. It's Wuji Heavenly Supreme. Yen Hong's mind had already flown to the void when he saw the opportunity. After Supreme Longevity finished speaking, he immediately flew into the void. Thank you, Wuji Heavenly Supreme. Night Sorrow cupped his fists and bowed to Supreme Longevity before flying into the void with Bai Mei Sanren. You guys go too. Xuanmo, it's up to you whether the Jiuxian estate can get good resources. Go. After Night Sorrow flew into the void, Supreme Longevity allowed the people of the Jiuxian estate to participate in the fight. After the others flew away, Xuanmo asked, Wuji Heavenly Supreme, you said that Night Sorrow is the son of destiny of the eternal Supreme World. Is that true? You are already an Earth Supreme while Night Sorrow has just become a Supreme. But if the two of you fight, you will be the one to die. Don't get into a conflict with him. Go. Supreme Longevity Immortal didn't respond to this question directly. He let Xianmu leave after saying that. After hearing Supreme Longevity's words, Xuanmo flew into the void with a complicated expression. After Xuanmo left, Supreme Longevity sent a voice transmission to Night Sorrow. We will definitely take revenge for the Godly World estate. But the Eternal Supreme World must. We need to keep some talents for our use. Just the Godly World estate alone isn't enough to fight against the fog. I understand. Night Sorrow replied and continued, You have worked hard all these years. He knew that Supreme Longevity had disguised himself as Feng Wuji and stayed in the Jiuxian estate. He had sacrificed a lot for the future of the godly world estate. He was a respectable senior. Heaven and earth are in my sleeves. It's nothing. At least in the Jiuxian estate, no one plotted against me. Supreme Longevity sighed and continued, hurry up and fight for the opportunity. All right. Night Sorrow replied and looked into the void. At this moment, it wasn't just the heavenly supreme laws and essences descending from the void. Instead, it was various earthly supreme level artifacts. Seeing the earthly supreme artifacts descending from the void, Xuanmo and the others were very excited. However, Night Sorrow was a little disappointed. To him, this was nothing. What he needed the most was resources to increase his strength. However, his pupils quickly contracted. This was because Yi Shang had seen the first level of the Eternal Divine Tower in the sky. Just like Little Seven, this level of the pagoda had taken on the appearance of the Eternal Divine Pagoda. However, Yi Shang was able to see its original appearance with the Nightmare Dragon's Eye. This was the top of the Eternal Tower, the 9th level. After locking onto him, Yi Shang transmitted, "Are you on the 9th floor of the Eternal Divine Tower? You can only have the right to talk to me." Upon hearing Night Sorrow's voice, the 9th level of the Eternal Supreme Longevity Tower immediately replied with a murderous aura. At this moment, Night Sorrow suddenly realized that the 9th level of the Eternal Supreme Longevity Tower had an extremely strong murderous aura. This should be the aura of the foggy area. Could it be that all these opportunities came from the foggy area? Upon seeing the murderous aura on the 9th level of the Eternal Supreme Longevity Tower, Night Sorrow was puzzled. You're right. The other artifacts here are indeed opportunities that fell from the sky. However, the 9th level of the Eternal Supreme Longevity Tower in front of you was brought out by me from the foggy area. However, I'm unable to purify the murderous aura. Use your ability to subdue it and purify it. If I'm not wrong, the real Eternal Supreme Longevity Tower is an ultimate level artifact. If you can collect all of them, they might be of great use in the future. While Night Sorrow was puzzled, Supreme Longevity suddenly transmitted his voice. I see. Upon hearing this, Night Sorrow's heart skipped a beat. He felt that this was very likely to be true. He secretly thought to himself that he should ask Little Seven later on what its true strength was after combining the 9 levels into one. However, for now, he naturally had to subdue the 9th level first. Just as Night Sorrow was pondering, the 9th level of the Eternal Supreme Longevity Tower suddenly shot a ray of light at Night Sorrow. Upon being hit by this ray of light, Night Sorrow immediately felt a fierce pulling force. This ray of light was obviously trying to pull him into the Eternal Supreme Longevity Tower. Trying to suck me in? Not so easy. Night Sorrow guessed that this 9th level should be the same as Little Seven. If it sucked a cultivator in, it should be able to refine them into laws and essence. Naturally, he couldn't let it suck him in. In the face of the pulling force of the ray of light, Night Sorrow immediately released the power of virtue to protect himself. With the power of virtue protecting him, the ray of light formed by the murderous aura was instantly dispersed. What kind of power is this? The ray of light formed by the murderous aura was instantly dispersed. The 9th level of the Eternal Supreme Longevity Tower was immediately surprised. Power of virtue. At this moment, Night Sorrow roared and shot the Eternal Life Amplification Spear at the 9th level of the Eternal Supreme Longevity Tower. He had used this move against Little Seven. Originally, he didn't want to use it again. However, it came in handy at this moment. At the same time as he shot out the Eternal Life Amplification Spear, Night Sorrow released the Fire Beacon Smoke Diagram. Moreover, he set up the Divine Essence Trapping Array and the Merit Trapping Array. They completely trapped the 9th level of the Eternal Supreme Longevity Tower. Being controlled by the 4 of them, how could the 9th level of the Eternal Supreme Longevity Tower escape? It was immediately restrained and the entire tower was fiercely bombarded by Night Sorrow's golden heavenly halberd. Using the sea serpent's eye to observe, Night Sorrow discovered that several tiles of the 9th level had been blasted off by this attack. Does this count as defeating you? After succeeding in one strike, Night Sorrow kept the golden heavenly halberd. However, he didn't retrieve the fire beacon smoke diagram. No. I'm going to kill you. With only the confinement of the fire beacon smoke diagram left, the 9th level of the Eternal Supreme Longevity Tower was quickly broken out. This time, he released a large amount of murderous aura towards Night Sorrow. Brother Night Sorrow, be careful of this fog. This aura comes from the fog area. It's very evil and I'm very familiar with it. Seeing this aura, Bai Mei Sanren immediately reminded him. It's okay. I have a treasure to protect me. As Night Sorrow replied to Bai Mei Sanren, he took out the white jade from the space grotto heaven. After the white jade appeared, it immediately purified all the murderous aura in front of him. How is this possible? How can this piece of jade purify all my murderous aura? After the murderous aura was purified by the white jade, the 9th level of the Eternal Supreme Longevity Tower had obviously suffered a huge blow. It seems that if I want you to return to normal, I have to completely remove all the evil aura on your body. At this moment, there was still a large amount of evil aura on the 9th level of the Eternal Supreme Longevity Tower. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and imprisoned it again. Using the power of merit and the white jade, he began to purify the entire tower. After being purified by the power of merit and the white jade, the 9th level of the Eternal Supreme Longevity Tower quickly returned to its original state. It was exactly the same as what Night Sorrow saw with the sea serpent's eye. Chapter 3072. As the 9th level of the Eternal Divine Tower roared, the evil aura around it was being purified by Night Sorrow bit by bit. Because he had invested a lot of energy into it, by the time he had completely dispelled the evil aura, the opportunities in the void had been completely snatched away. Several cultivators had obtained earthly sovereign artifacts. Especially Xuanmo, who had obtained 2 earthly sovereign artifacts, he was in high spirits. And after the evil aura on the 9th level of the Eternal Divine Tower was completely removed, it said respectfully to Night Sorrow, "Thank you. You have completely removed the murderous aura around me. I am now my true self. Seeing that you can recover, I am very gratified." Night Sorrow looked at the 9th level of the Eternal Divine Tower and nodded slightly. To be able to completely purify a divine artifact that was surrounded by murderous aura, he had more confidence in the future. "You have saved me. I will lend you a hand in the future. But there is a time limit." The 9th level of the Eternal Divine Tower made a promise. Hearing this, Night Sorrow smiled and said, "Enter my space paradise first. After the matter at hand is over, I will bring you to see Little 7. Little 7? The 9th level of the Eternal Divine Tower asked doubtfully. The 7th level of the Eternal Divine Tower. I know that you are all a part of the Eternal Divine Tower. Night Sorrow began to talk about Little 7 and also about Little 7. So that's how it is. I didn't expect that the 7th level was not cleansed by the murderous aura. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, the 9th level of the Eternal Divine Tower sighed and continued, since it is called Little 7. Then call me Little 9. Alright, Little 9. I will settle some matters first. Enter my space paradise first. Yi Shang said as he kept Little 9 into his space grotto heaven. Then, he flew to Bai Mei Sanren and asked, Senior Bai Mei Sanren, have you obtained a divine artifact? Yes, I did. And it's a top-grade earthly sovereign artifact. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Bai Mei Sanren summoned an iron rod from his grotto heaven. This iron rod was pitch black and had a simple and unadorned appearance. But after Bai Mei Sanren poured in his God Essence energy, the metal rod immediately shot out a multicolored light. Moreover, it was releasing an extremely powerful aura. Good stuff. It was indeed a good item. Congratulations to Senior for improving your strength. The iron rod in Baimei Sanrin's hand contained a strong fighting spirit. Even if he had no intention of attacking Night Sorrow, he could still feel a strong pressure. Calling him senior all the time was a little too distant. In the future, I'll just call you elder brother. After all, his brother had reincarnated and was no longer the person from back then. Don't be too restrained. Today, he would be able to obtain a fortuitous encounter and escape unscathed. It's all thanks to you. Baimei Sanrin put away the iron rod and said with a smile. Good brother. There's no need to be so polite between you and me. I wonder what your plans are after this matter? Night Sorrow asked. At this moment, the fortuitous encounter from the heavens should have ended. The two of them were about to separate. This time, I obtained a lot of fortuitous encounters. I'm going to find a safe place to advance to Earthly Sovereign. What about you and your friends? Baimei Sanrin looked at Night Sorrow and asked. I'll go see them in a while, then I'll go with everyone to save 2 people. After that, I should return to the realm of gods. But after returning, I shouldn't stay for long. I'm going to explore the foggy area. I'll try to increase my strength quickly. Night Sorrow replied truthfully. He didn't hold back from Baimei Sanrin. Hearing this, Baimei Sanrin immediately became spirited and said, Brother Night Sorrow, I think you can disperse the murderous aura in the foggy area. How about you bring me along into the foggy area? Firstly, I can borrow your light to recover my strength quickly. Secondly, we can take care of each other. The foggy area is very dangerous. Alright, but brother, how long will it take for you to advance to Earthly Sovereign? If it's too long, I'm afraid I can't wait. Night Sorrow felt that if Yi Shiwen cultivated for hundreds or thousands of years, or even longer, he wouldn't be able to wait at all. Because increasing his strength was an urgent matter. Within 100 years, it should be about time. Baimei Sanrin pondered for a moment before replying. Then brother, you should go find a safe place to advance first. When you break through to Earthly Sovereign, look for me in the realm of gods. I'll wait for you for 100 years. After 100 years, I'll set off for the foggy area on time. Yi Shang said a few words to Whitebrow Wanderer before bidding him farewell. He flew to the vicinity of the Supreme Longevity and said, Senior, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first. Alright, don't forget about saving people. Supreme Longevity instructed, then called Xuanmo over. Night Sorrow, Xuanmo, get to know each other. In the great calamity in the future, we'll stand side by side. I hope that you can maintain a good relationship with each other. All right, I got it. Night Sorrow replied, then looked at Xuanmo and said, Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Xuanmo looked at Night Sorrow with a complicated expression and said, Nice to meet you too. Supreme Longevity suddenly said, These 3 grotto heavens. They originally belonged to Tianshao territory, Mingyan territory, and Extremity Immortal territory. Now, Tianshao territory and Extremity Immortal territory have been chased out by me. The grotto heavens in Extremity Immortal territory will belong to the realm of gods in the future. Night Sorrow, come with me to receive them. All right. Night Sorrow replied. Actually, he wasn't too sure if the realm of gods could protect the grotto heavens. But since it was Supreme Longevity who spoke, he didn't say much. Under the surprised gazes of Xuanmo and the rest, he followed Supreme Longevity to the grotto heavens that originally belonged to Extremity Immortal territory. After Supreme Longevity left with Night Sorrow, the people in Jiuxian territory, including Xuanmo, were all surprised. They couldn't understand why Supreme Longevity would hand over a grotto heavens to an insignificant realm of gods. However, Supreme Longevity was a heavenly supreme after all, and they had absolute confidence in it. They didn't dare to say much and kept their doubts to themselves. The grotto heavens are indeed extraordinary. If the realm of gods can control this place for a long time, in the coming years, there will definitely be a large number of geniuses emerging. After taking over the grotto heavens that originally belonged to Extremity Immortal territory, Night Sorrow was beyond excited. At the same time, he was very grateful for Supreme Longevity's arrangement. The cultivation environment in this grotto heavens was hundreds and thousands of times better than the realm of gods. Staying in this grotto heavens, one didn't have to deliberately cultivate, and the god essence energy in one's body would increase. It was very mysterious. Are you satisfied with this grotto heavens? Supreme Longevity asked with a half-smile after seeing Night Sorrow's expression. Clan M. Chapter 3073. Satisfied. Of course. Senior, you've really put in a lot of effort. With this place as a cultivation ground, the realm of gods will be able to nurture a large number of experts very quickly. Night Sorrow calculated the resources in his hands and the manpower in the realm of gods. He was extremely confident about the future. At this moment, Supreme Longevity continued, I'll stop the heavenly sovereigns. But if the earthly sovereigns come to fight for the grotto heaven, I'll ignore them. I hope you can hold on to it. We'll do our best to hold on to it. When he heard this, Yi Shang immediately replied confidently. When he took over the grotto heaven, he had already thought of how to do it. Night Sorrow was prepared to head to the foggy region in 100 years. He was prepared to rescue the 2 deputy city lords before that. With the resources in his hands, he would nurture the 2 of them into earthly sovereigns. This way, the 2 of them would be able to guard the grotto heaven together. In that case, ordinary earthly sovereigns wouldn't be able to threaten the safety of the grotto heaven. Good. It's good that you have this ambition. I don't wish for all of you to depend on my afterglow. That will cause you to lose your drive to improve. Supreme Longevity looked at Night Sorrow with admiration. What he saw in Night Sorrow wasn't just talent, but also the determination to rely on himself to move forward. Senior, don't worry. It's not just me. The batch of people who have risen recently in the realm of gods won't have this mentality. Night Sorrow said. Then, he told Supreme Longevity about Xiao Tianxian and the rest. Hearing this, Supreme Longevity laughed and said, Since you've mentioned them, I can't be too petty. This place is filled with cultivation resources. It should be enough for them to reach the level of earthly sovereigns quickly. You can give it to them. But don't mention me. You're the only one who knows about me. I'll keep it a secret. Right, Senior? You brought the 9th level of the Eternal Divine Tower out of the foggy region. That proves that you've entered the foggy region before. Can you explain the situation inside to me? Since he was preparing to enter the foggy region to raise his strength, Night Sorrow felt that he should be more prepared. He didn't want to get lost in it. Since the Supreme Longevity had obviously been there before, he naturally had to ask about it. Now that you've asked, I can't explain it clearly in a short time. But you have to remember one thing, and that is that every single blade of grass and tree in this foggy area can kill you. I have an ancient book here, you can read it yourself. It recorded some things that happened at the edge of the fog. The Supreme Longevity took out a book and handed it to Night Sorrow so that he could read it himself. Taking the book, Yi Shang glanced at Eternal Life Supremacy and said, Senior, I will help you find a suitable body and give you a chance to break through to the Lamiter realm. With your strength, it's still too early to talk about this. And I'm pretty sure that the Eternal Paragon realm doesn't have a body like this. Our only hope lies in the fog. But even if we from the Eternal Sovereign world have some tricks up our sleeves, it will be difficult for us to enter the depths of the fog. Therefore, this is an endless cycle. Supreme Longevity sighed softly. Without a sufficiently outstanding body, he would never be able to advance to the ultimate supremacy stage. That was the biggest knot in his heart. Looking at the Supreme Longevity's expression, Night Sorrow continued, No matter what, I will work hard. Wait for me, Senior. Alright, hurry and go. Hurry and meet up with your friends. Remember, you have to prioritize the divine world before the eternal sovereign world. Before Night Sorrow left, the Supreme Longevity reminded him. I'll take my leave then, Senior. After communicating with the Supreme Longevity, Night Sorrow headed to the location of the 3,000 grotto heavens in his own grotto heavens to look for the others in the divine world. At that moment, the opportunity above the 3,000 grotto heavens had long ended. There were not many cultivators left in the void. Night Sorrow immediately arrived above the grotto heavens controlled by Jing Yun and sent her a voice transmission. Jing Yun, where are you guys? We're in the grotto heavens. You're back? Jing Yun asked uncertainly. I'm back. How's everyone? Night Sorrow asked in concern. Everyone is injured and not in good condition. They're all recovering in the grotto heavens. I'll come and get you. After saying that, Jing Yun flew out of the grotto heavens and brought Night Sorrow in. When Night Sorrow arrived in the grotto heavens, he was immediately enraged by the situation in front of him. Not only were the people from the heavenly realm injured, none of them had a complete body. It was obvious that every one of them had been severely injured. It wasn't like this when I left. What happened after that? Yi Shang, who had grown bold, asked in a bad mood. After you left, we were still fighting for opportunities in the sky like how we were when you were here. But suddenly, 3 half-step earthly supremes appeared. They didn't fight for any opportunities and only attacked us. I think they wanted to kill us all. If not for Little Seven, we would have all been killed. Jing Yun, who was in a slightly better condition, said. After all, she was a lower earthly supremacy and was much stronger than the others. Poor they. Or do they have any characteristics? We can't just let this go. Night Sorrow glanced at everyone and asked with a gloomy face. Although none of the people in the divine world had died, they were all in bad condition. This suppressed his excitement of obtaining the grotto heavens. They didn't reveal any obvious characteristics. I only know that there are 2 of them and one of them is a girl. They are very strong and not ordinary half-step earthly supremes. Jing Yun tried to recall, but she couldn't recall their characteristics. It seems that it won't be easy to find out who is secretly targeting us. Let's not talk about this for now. I've gained a lot in the grotto heavens. Let's distribute it. I'll try my best to help you all become earthly supremes quickly. Then, we'll go and find the 2 deputy city lords. Night Sorrow said and distributed the resources given by the Supreme Longevity to everyone present. After everyone started to absorb the resources to recover from their injuries and cultivate, Night Sorrow started to absorb the Heavenly Supreme's rules and essence. After absorbing, Night Sorrow realized that the Heavenly Supreme's rules and essence were obviously different from the Earthly Supreme's rules and essence. It was very peaceful and comfortable to absorb. However, he couldn't increase the speed of absorption at all. He could only absorb it bit by bit. I can only absorb it so slowly. It seems that I won't be able to advance to intermediate supremacy before entering the foggy area. From the rate of absorption, it was basically impossible to advance to intermediate supremacy in a short period of time. Therefore, Night Sorrow stopped cultivating. Instead, he summoned Little Nine and brought it to Little Seven. He said, Little Seven, look who this is. The 9th level. After seeing Little Nine, Little Seven immediately exclaimed in surprise. It was extremely surprised. At this moment, it had many things to ask for confirmation. Clan M. Chapter 3074. After that, Night Sorrow let Little Seven and Little Nine communicate. He listened from the side and heard a lot of things about the foggy area, and some information about the other parts of the Eternal Divine Tower. Little Nine knew the whereabouts of the 3rd and 5th floors. They had fallen into the hands of the 2 Earth Sovereigns in the foggy area. Little Nine had tried to rescue them but failed. Moreover, the 3rd and 5th floors had become extremely evil. After talking to Little Seven about this, Little Nine begged Night Sorrow, Night Sorrow, Little Seven and I are willing to serve you. Please bring the essence of the 3rd and 5th floors over. Don't worry. After 100 years, I will go to the foggy area to cultivate. At that time, I will do my best to help you. I will strive to merge the Eternal Divine Tower as soon as possible. Night Sorrow looked at Little Seven and Little Nine and promised them. At this time, Little Seven said, Actually, if you can merge the Eternal Divine Tower again, it will be very good. It will also be good for you, because a complete Eternal Divine Tower is a rare ultimate divine artifact in the world. If a great calamity really comes, it will play a very important role. Little Seven had not seriously said these words to Night Sorrow in the past. But this time, Night Sorrow had purified Little Nine, allowing him to see hope. I will do my best. You two catch up first. I have some things to discuss with my friends. While saying this, Night Sorrow saw Thousand Sword Sect stand up, so he walked over and asked, Brother Thousand, how do you feel? I have basically recovered, but there is an aura of death around the wound. It is hard to erase. I am afraid this will be a big problem. Thousand Sword Sect took off his robe and revealed his chest. There was a wound on his chest that was cut by sword energy, and there was an aura of death suffused with black gas. He used the sea serpent's eye to observe this aura of death. Night Sorrow frowned. This should be something from the foggy area. I can feel it from the aura. It seems that the few half-step Earth sovereigns who injured you are very likely to have been to the foggy area. They might even have infiltrated our eternal sovereign world from the foggy area. What? It's actually related to the fog. Upon hearing Night Sorrow's words, Master Wan Jian's expression turned ugly. In the beginning, he didn't realize how powerful the death chi was. In the process of healing, he realized that it was very difficult to resolve. It's all right. I should be able to purify the aura of death. Come, let us give it a try. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, he took out the white jade and began to purify the 10,000 Swords Sect with the power of virtue. In just a few moments, the black gas lingering around Master Wan Jian's wound was completely dispelled. It's really possible. Brother Yi, you really are a man of great fortune. To actually be able to grasp such a heaven-defying technique. The 10,000 Swords Sect was in a wonderful mood now that their chronic illness had been cured. Then he said, if I'm like this, I'm afraid others are like this as well. Brother Yi, let's treat them one by one. Alright. Night Sorrow nodded. After that, they went to look for the people from the God world. He helped them get rid of their chronic diseases. When he was treating Jing Yun, it was very charming. The process could not be told to outsiders. After everyone had recovered, Night Sorrow did not immediately mention the matter of rescuing the two Vice City Lords. Instead, he let everyone absorb the resources to advance to the sovereign level. About 3 years later, with Yang Qing's successful advancement, the people from the God world had all advanced to the sovereign level. At this time, Night Sorrow gathered everyone together and said, now, we have successfully completed the first small goal. It's time to rescue the two Vice City Lords. But what should we do? After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Xiao Tianxin asked. Rescuing the two Vice City Lords was like looking for a needle in a haystack. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow said, the two Vice City Lords should not be in the 3 grotto heavens. Although there are more targets in the 3,000 grotto heavens, we can try one by one. Now that I can erupt with an Earth sovereign level attack, the small grotto heavens can't trap us. Night Sorrow said and talked about the cooperation with the 9 Shen territory and the grotto heavens. This matter had a great impact on everyone. They were surprised that Feng Wuji of the 9 Shen territory would be so generous to give an entire grotto heaven to the God world. Night Sorrow could not mention the supreme longevity, so he did not explain. So, he talked about the calamity and told everyone that he was called the Eternal Supreme World's Son of Destiny by Feng Wuji. That was why he was taken care of. In the hearts of the people of the God world, Night Sorrow was originally a person who gathered destiny and fate. This matter was over just like that. All right. Let's go. We will enter the 3,000 grotto heavens one by one. Everyone be careful, there might be a battle. But in order to save people, this is unavoidable. Now that Night Sorrow had the strength of an Earth Sovereign, he could break through the defenses of the 3,000 grotto heavens. Many of these grotto heavens were ownerless. 4 such grotto heavens, after Night Sorrow broke through, the people of the God world would naturally recognize him as their master. And if there was a master, they would basically encounter a battle. Now, Night Sorrow and the many sovereigns of the God world were all existences in the grotto heavens. Moreover, the God world was now in an alliance with the 9 Shen territory and Life Extension territory. They were still enemies with the other territories, So they did not care who the other party was and continued to attack. It took about 10 years. They had successfully swept through 107 grotto heavens and occupied all of them. After discovering that the people of the god world had swept through the grotto heavens, the masters of the other grotto heavens moved out to discuss the matter of alliance, preparing to attack the people of the god world together. Just as they were discussing the matter of alliance, Night Sorrow finally found the two vice city lords in the 108th grotto heaven. There were only two people in the 108th grotto heaven. They were the first and second vice city lords of the god world city. Both of them were imprisoned on wooden stakes in the grotto heaven. Their bodies were thin and their spirits were low. They did not even look like cultivators anymore. Are you the first and second vice city lords of the god world city? The two of them looked very similar to the first and second vice city lords, but Yi Shang still asked a question. Who are you? The first vice city lord opened his eyes with difficulty and said in a hoarse voice, My name is Night Sorrow, a descendant of the god world city. They are the same as me. Everyone is here to rescue you. Night Sorrow said and condensed his divine origin force to remove the ropes on the two vice city lords. In fact, he had already used the sea serpent's eye to observe the two of them. There was no problem with their identities. Not good. Things are difficult. There is something wrong with the ropes. The moment Night Sorrow removed the ropes, the two vice city lords' faces changed completely. What's wrong with the ropes? Hearing this, Jing Yun asked curiously. Genius remembered this site's address in a second. Human mobile version reading website. Chapter 3075. Once this rope is touched, it will immediately be known to the people who imprison me. They are very strong and not someone an Earth sovereign can fight against. Let's go quickly. How many people are there? Could it be the strength of an Earth sovereign? Night Sorrow asked doubtfully. According to his idea, they should wait for the enemy to arrive and take revenge for the two deputy city lords. At this time, the first deputy city lord said in horror, There are at least 5 of them. Although they are not Earth sovereigns, they should have the strength of an Earth sovereign. It's very scary. The second deputy city lord urged, Let's go. Let's leave this place immediately, there might still be a chance. The two deputy city lords were obviously very afraid of those enemies. Night Sorrow could even hear the fear in their voices. Originally, he wanted to ask what the other party had done to them. He could only feel that the two of them were very weak at this time. But before he could speak, 5 black-robed people descended into the small grotto heaven. I didn't expect that we would meet again so soon. Your injuries have healed very quickly. Last time, I let you escape. This time, all of you will be left behind to become our nourishment. One of the black-robed people had just descended when he said this in a playful tone. It's the 3 of you. Jing Yun immediately said coldly after scanning the few people in front of her with her divine soul power. 3 of the 5 people in front of her were the ones who had injured them. Are they the ones who injured you? Their aura is indeed extraordinary. However, they are all trash from the fog region. Night Sorrow observed the 5 of them with the sea serpent's eye and immediately realized that they were extraordinary. And he could also see that there was an obvious aura of death and slaughter on them. This aura was purified by him for Little 9. Obviously, they were all from the fog region. What? They are all creatures from the fog region. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, the faces of the 2 deputy city lords became gloomier and gloomier. The rest of the people in the realm of gods were all alert. You have actually discovered the secret. It seems that even if we want to continue to keep you as nourishment, it is impossible. The only female cultivator sinisterly said and then ordered, Kill them all. Originally, they had imprisoned the 2 vice city lords so that they could absorb the blood chi from their bodies regularly to cover up their own murderous aura. At this time, their identities were exposed. They immediately wanted to kill them. If you want to kill us all, let's see if you have the ability. Facing the 5 people in front of him, Night Sorrow said coldly. At the same time, he took the 2 deputy city lords who were in poor physical condition and could not participate in the battle into the space grotto heaven. He turned to the others in the God world and said, as the saying goes, revenge doesn't wait overnight. Now the opportunity could take revenge immediately. At the same time, Thousand Sword Master Shao Tianxian transmitted his voice to Yishan. When the battle starts, try your best to leave them alive. It's no small matter that people from the fog zone have infiltrated my eternal sovereign world. Night Sorrow responded, took out the golden heavenly halberd, and attacked the only female cultivator present. It was obvious that the others listened to her orders. A mere lower supremacy dares to behave atrociously in front of me. The female cultivator, whose voice was originally normal, immediately became hoarse after the battle began. The killing intent in her words was simply through the sky. As for Yi Shang, when he used the sea serpent's eye to take a look, he discovered that the rather delicate face that was covered had already turned into something that was neither human nor ghost. It looked like a zombie that had lived for countless years. I'll leave the others to you. I'll take down this female cultivator and then help you. Night Sorrow, facing this evil female cultivator, explained to the people in the realm of gods. He directly shot the eternal life amplification spear at her. This move was not Night Sorrow's strongest killing move. At this time, it was also a test. Your move is only SOS. Facing Night Sorrow's eternal life amplification spear, the female cultivator took out a slender needle that looked like a short sword from her ear. This needle was black. After taking it out, the female cultivator threw it out and shot it at Night Sorrow's golden heavenly halberd. She was obviously not stopped by the eternal life amplification spear. You have some ability. The female cultivator was not affected by the eternal life amplification spear. This was something that Night Sorrow had thought of. Then he took out the fire beacon smoke diagram and threw it into the void. Then he used the 33 Heavens battle secret technique to raise his strength to the maximum. After the flying needle shot by the female cultivator was sent flying, Night Sorrow shot the divine finger at her. Found it. Seeing the divine finger, the female cultivator immediately roared. It was as if she had seen a treasure. Found it? Are they looking for the divine finger? Hearing this, Night Sorrow was a little surprised. However, he naturally would not relax his attack. Facing this attack, the female cultivator did not dare to continue to be careless. She used her movement technique and wanted to dodge. However, Night Sorrow's divine finger was not the same as the ordinary divine finger. In the attack, it had the effect of tracking. The female cultivator thought that she had dodged it, but she was still hit. The attack power of the divine finger was extremely powerful. After being hit by it, half of the female cultivator's arm was directly shattered. It is indeed powerful. It can be confirmed that one of our two goals has been achieved. The female cultivator who had half of her arm shattered did not care about the pain at all. Instead, she laughed. The other black-robed men who were fighting with the people of the Divine World territory were also very excited. It was as if they had found a treasure. Regarding this, the people of the Divine World territory were somewhat puzzled. However, under such circumstances, they naturally did not have the mood to think about this. They thought that they could just capture the person and ask whatever they wanted. At this moment, the female cultivator's arm could be seen growing bit by bit. Soon, it was completely restored to its perfect state. She sneered at Night Sorrow and said, "The ability of the fog area is far beyond your imagination. Wait to be captured." She, who originally wanted to kill Night Sorrow and the others, had changed her mind. No matter what means you have, you can't escape from the eternal supreme world today. Facing the arrogant female cultivator, Night Sorrow glanced at the others in the battle and found that after advancing to the supreme level, their fighting strength had increased a lot. At this point in the battle, they were only slightly suppressed. At this time, while Night Sorrow continued to fight with the female cultivator, he summoned Little 7 and Little 9 and let them help the others fight. As for the restriction-breaking hammer, its strength was relatively weaker, so he did not summon it. Eternal Devil Tower? After seeing Little 7 and Little 9 appear, a surprised smile appeared on the female cultivator's face again. Obviously, she knew about the Eternal Divine Tower. It was just that the name was different. Genius remembered this site's address in a second. Human mobile version reading website. Chapter 3076. The Eternal Divine Tower is called the Eternal Demon Tower in the foggy area? Knight Sorrow murmured when he heard the masked female cultivator call it that. At the same time, he learned that the other parts of the Eternal Divine Tower should be very famous in the foggy area. This way, it would be easier to find. The bad part was that it would be difficult to snatch it back. This Eternal Demon Tower is something that a lord wants. Now we have found 2 parts at once. How lucky! The masked female cultivator's voice was trembling. She was very excited. Obviously, the lord she was talking about had given a very generous reward. Ignorant. What reward can be more valuable than an ultimate divine weapon? Knight Sorrow disdainfully thought to himself, the masked female cultivator is like this. However, he was not in the mood to talk nonsense with her at this time. He used the Qingxian godly spear technique to close the distance between him and the female cultivator. Under the interference of the fire beacon smoke diagram, the female cultivator, who was not at an advantage in strength, was quickly suppressed by Knight Sorrow. In fact, the female cultivator had the ability to fight a lower earthly sovereign. However, Knight Sorrow had the ability to defeat a lower earthly sovereign. There was still a gap between the two. After Knight Sorrow attacked with all his strength, the female cultivator realized that things were not going well and did not dare to be delusional. She took out a black paper lamp from the space hollow. After the black paper lamp was summoned, it immediately emitted a strong murderous aura. The aura of death instantly covered the entire space hollow. Not good. This is the aura of the foggy area. In this environment, you can hold on, but we can't hold on for long. After the aura of the foggy area began to dissipate, Xiao Tianxian immediately said, "Then let's fight." Hearing this, Knight Sorrow reactivated the Treastrimsa battle secret technique. At the same time, he burned the power of his bloodline. The battle intent on his body also reached its peak. Moreover, the power of merit surrounded his body. Under the protection of the white jade, he completely fought with the masked female cultivator. After Knight Sorrow used all his means, the masked female cultivator suddenly realized that the aura of the foggy area in front of her had no effect on Knight Sorrow at all. She cursed in her heart. At the same time, he thought of a terrifying problem. If Knight Sorrow entered the foggy area, he could disguise himself as a creature of the foggy area and not be discovered. In reality, he would never be lost. You guys, don't worry about the others. Kill this person with me. Thinking of this, the veiled female cultivator immediately called the others to help her. But, hearing this, the others did not come to their rescue at all. After all, they were already in a stalemate with Jing Yun and the others. The realm of the gods was no longer the same as it used to be. His combat prowess had increased by many times. Originally, they couldn't defeat 3 of them, but now they were able to fight 4 of them, and the tribe was at a disadvantage. Captain Emo Shah. We can't do anything about it. One of the cultivators who had gone to help the veiled female cultivator helplessly replied after a few attempts to break through the encirclement but to no avail. What do I need you for? Against Knight Sorrow, who was nearly invulnerable, the masked female cultivator Mona had no chance of winning at all. She thought for a moment and immediately chose to leave the small grotto heaven. However, just as she left the small grotto heaven, Knight Sorrow successfully broke through the barrier of the small grotto heaven and caught up to her. In the void, he started another great battle with her. Under Knight Sorrow's fierce attacks, Emo Shah lost all hope in a situation where she couldn't gain the upper hand in terms of strength, speed, technique, and aura. For a moment, she was thinking of how to perish together with Knight Sorrow. If it was an ordinary person, she would choose to self-detonate into the fog and brainwash them. However, Knight Sorrow was not afraid of the fog at all, which gave her a headache. You dare to think nonsense while fighting with me? That soft dragon roar. Seeing that the veiled female cultivator was thinking, Night Sorrow immediately used his most proficient soul attack. This wasn't his most powerful spiritual attack, but it was the most convenient for him to use. After being roared by Night Sorrow, the veiled female cultivator felt her spirit sea tremble. While she was stunned for a moment, Night Sorrow used the godly spear and directly pierced her dantian. Although the creatures in the fog were corroded by the fog, they were basically the same as cultivators. With her dantian pierced, Emo Sha immediately realized that the battle was over. However, at this time, she completely lost her ferocity and chose to self-detonate her soul. Without giving Night Sorrow a chance to react, she used the aura of her self-detonation to launch a final attack on Night Sorrow. However, Night Sorrow, who was prepared, would not give her any chance to hurt herself. The moment she chose to self-detonate, she had already used Mysterious Sky's secret shadow and successfully hid in the void. When Night Sorrow reappeared, he found a black crystal floating at the spot where Emo Sha had self-detonated. This crystal was very exquisite, but it exuded an extremely evil aura. There's something to be said, but now is not the time to study it. After putting away the black crystal, Night Sorrow returned to the small grotto heaven and cooperated with the others in the heavenly realm to fight the remaining 4 foggy cultivators. Not long after, 2 of them were killed. At this time, Night Sorrow looked at the 2 of them with killing intent and said, "I'll give you a chance. Tell me the purpose of your trip, and I'll let you live." "You underestimate the warriors of the fog too much." One of the male cultivators snorted disdainfully and chose to self-detonate. The nearest cultivator, Master Wanjian, was directly sent flying, causing heavy damage. Yuan Fengxue immediately flew to his side and protected him. Night Sorrow wanted to check on Master Wanjian's injuries, but he resisted the urge to do so. Instead, he used the white jade and the power of virtue to purify the last foggy cultivator. He knew that cultivators who were corroded by the fog would not choose to compromise, so he chose another method. The eyes of this male cultivator, who was originally filled with only the desire to kill, quickly became blurred. "Brother Wan, how are your injuries?" When the male cultivator's eyes became blurred, Night Sorrow immediately asked about Master Wanjian's injuries. "I'm fine, I can still talk." Master Wanjian, who was heavily injured, said, "It's good that you're fine." Night Sorrow confirmed that Master Wanjian was fine and continued to purify the male cultivator in front of him. As the purification went deeper, the black light in the male cultivator's eyes completely disappeared. What replaced it was a lake of clarity. "Alright, you've been washed away from the fog's mark. It's time to return to normal." At this time, Night Sorrow looked at the male cultivator in front of him and said, At this time, the male cultivator was obviously a little stunned, as if his thoughts were a little interrupted. Night Sorrow asked, "You sneaked into the eternal supreme world from the fog. What do you want to do?" Chapter 3077. What is the purpose of sneaking into the eternal supreme world? I am a cultivator of the eternal supreme world. Hearing this, the male cultivator, who was already a little stunned, murmured in confusion. After a few breaths, he fell to the ground holding his head in pain. "What's going on?" Seeing the male cultivator fall to the ground in pain, Master Wanjian asked in confusion. It should be that there are a lot of memories in his mind. He's digesting them. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and replied. The facts that followed also proved Night Sorrow's words. The male cultivator fell to the ground to recover for about a quarter of an hour, and then slowly stood up. He looked at Night Sorrow with a calm gaze and said, "I remember now. I remember everything." "Good. Tell me your story first. Then I'll ask you something." Night Sorrow did not directly ask him the secret of coming to the eternal supreme world, but let him introduce himself first. They had a good idea. "What a long story." The male cultivator sighed and then said, "My name is Chen Qingyan, and I'm not from the same era as you. Back then, when the great calamity came, the creatures of the fog suddenly attacked the eternal supreme world. In that battle, although we resisted under the leadership of Yen and Yen Hengshi, But in the end, we were defeated by the creatures of the fog. All of us were captured and brought to the fog. Then the fog invaded our minds. We became their slaves. At this point, Chen Qingyun said in horror, "As for me coming to the eternal supreme world this time, I have two missions. The first is to find the person who knows the god's finger and eliminate him. The second is to find a stone coffin in the eternal supreme world. The other is that a new round of great calamity is about to come. The attack of the fog is coming again. This time, our eternal supreme world will probably be even more miserable than the last time. It's indeed more difficult to fight against. Because Yen Hengshi has fallen. It's difficult for us to fight against those three top existences." Night Sorrow frowned and sighed. Then he asked, "Qin Qingyun, do you know how long it will be before the fog attacks our eternal supreme world again?" "Not far. If there are no accidents, it will happen within 10,000 years. Qin Qingyun spoke out his judgment. This was a memory from the fog. 10,000 years is indeed a little short. Hearing the number 10,000, Night Sorrow's heart skipped a beat. To be honest, he wanted to advance to the ultimate supremacy stage before the fog attacked the eternal supremacy world. Looking at it now, this was simply too difficult. Not to mention advancing to the ultimate sovereign stage, even advancing to the heavenly sovereign stage in 10,000 years was too short. Those existences are all recuperating. If nothing unexpected happens, they will recover within 10,000 years. Once it recovers, it will return to the eternal paragon world. Qin Qingyun recalled his experience in the misty area and said, however, he could only recall 3 invincible existences, but he could not recall their names. Let's not talk about that for now. Tell me about the fog zone. I heard that it's very easy to raise one's strength in the fog. Night Sorrow's mind was firm. He knew that time was tight, but he was also very motivated. He no longer thought about the problem of time. Instead, he made up his mind to quickly enter the fog zone with Bai Mei Sanren once the matter in front of him was over. He would do everything possible to raise his strength as soon as possible. In the fog zone, there are indeed many ways to raise one's strength quickly. However, the faster one's strength increases, the stronger the murderous aura on one's body will be. In the end, they will become the slaves of several great demon kings. They can use the fog to control cultivators. Therefore, the eternal supremacy world cultivators who were captured and brought to the fog zone back then were all controlled by them and became loyal slaves. Qin Qingyun recalled some of the things that happened in the fog zone back then and slowly explained. Hearing him say this, Night Sorrow understood that the fog zone was very special because of the environment. As long as the eternal supremacy world cultivators entered, they would quickly lose their minds. Basically, no cultivator could enter the depths of the fog zone. Therefore, they were not guarded against the eternal supremacy world cultivators at all. That's a good thing. Hearing this, Night Sorrow nodded. He felt that this situation was very beneficial for him to sneak in. Then Qin Qingyun continued, although there are many resources in the fog zone, it is easy to increase one's strength. However, every resource will be accompanied by killing. In addition, although there are many resources to increase one's strength, however, the level one can advance to has a lot to do with one's talent. For example, I can only advance to half-step Earth supremacy and can't advance any further. Speaking of this, Qin Qingyun sighed helplessly. Then he looked at Night Sorrow and said, there are still many things that I know. I will write these things in the ancient book. However, this ancient book cannot be spread out. Because the fog zone has sent a large number of cultivators to hide in the eternal supremacy world. If they find out that someone has been purified and restored in the fog zone, things will be very bad. Don't worry. We won't spread your matter. Since you are from the previous era, you should have nothing to do with the myriad worlds. Come back to the God realm with me. However, for safety reasons, you can only stay in my space grotto heaven. Night Sorrow glanced at Qin Qingyun and felt that he was lucky and pitiful. Then, thank you for taking me in. Qin Qingyun said and continued to ask, since you have the ability to purify the fog, Are you going to go there to increase your strength? Of course I'm going. Otherwise, when the great calamity comes, if my strength is not enough, I can only be beaten. Yi Shang put Chen Qingyun into his heavenly abode. Then, together with the others from the God world, they hurried toward the passageway leading to the God world. Hearing that Night Sorrow wanted to enter the fog zone, Chen Qingyun begged, "My wife was also caught in the fog zone back then. If possible, can you take me there? And help me save my wife? I know a lot about the fog zone and can be your guide." "Good. If I have the ability, I will save your wife for you. In the future, just call me Night Sorrow. No matter what, you are my senior." Night Sorrow replied and did not say anything else. His thoughts had already flown to the stone coffin that Chen Qingyun spoke of. He thought of the stone coffin in the forbidden area, but he was not sure if the two were the same thing. After thinking about it, he decided not to investigate. After that, Night Sorrow and the others encountered many cultivators who were targeting them. These cultivators were no match for them when they met again. Soon, they were swept away by Night Sorrow and the others. After returning to the God realm, Night Sorrow began to worry. He was prepared to bring the people of the God realm into the grotto heaven to cultivate before entering the fog zone. However, he did not know who in the current God realm territory had already defected to other territories. Clan M. Chapter 3078. Brother Wan, Brother Jin, both of you are seniors in the God realm. Who do you think is more reliable in the current God realm? In the God realm, in Jing Yun's courtyard, Night Sorrow called everyone over and asked. At this moment, he had not released the two Vice City Lords. This was because he was not sure who could be trusted in the current God realm. Hearing this, Master Wan Jian thought for a moment and said, "To be honest, who can be trusted in the current God realm? I don't dare to say a single person. I can't even guarantee that my uncle, White Tiger, is trustworthy." As for Jin Xian, he said, "I can only guarantee that my grandfather is not a traitor." "What about the rest of you?" Night Sorrow looked at Yuan Fengxue, Yang Qing, and the rest and asked. Everyone started shaking their heads. At this moment, Night Sorrow said, "The only people I can be sure of are you, Zhu Feng, and the two Vice City Lords. As for the rest, I can't guarantee anything. This way, it will be a problem who can enter the grotto heaven to cultivate." Night Sorrow did not know much about the two Vice City Lords, but since the Supreme Longevity said that they were fine, they must be fine. Actually, I think this problem is very easy to solve. At this moment, Xiao Tianxian looked at Night Sorrow and said, "Let those who enter the grotto heaven make a heavenly oath. They must never betray the God realm. That's it." If many people have betrayed the God realm, how can we solve this problem? After Xiao Tianxian finished speaking, Jing Yun said sharply, "I think if they can turn over a new leaf, we should give them a chance. But this is the only chance in front of us. What do you think?" Night Sorrow pondered for a moment and continued. Some time ago, the God realm experienced turmoil and people were uneasy. It was understandable for some people to seek refuge in other territories. Now that the God world was strong enough to hold its own in the eternal Paragon world, it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to give them a chance to fight back. Then it's decided. I will go and find my grandfather. Otherwise, with just the few of us, we might not be enough. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Jin Xian went to Ping and City to invite the Golden Crow. The Myriad Sword sect went to look for the White Tiger Sovereign to bring up this matter. Night Sorrow naturally chose to head to the City Lord Manor to look for the Ancestor Phoenix. He was prepared to tell him about the two Vice City Lords and discuss the cultivation of the Great Paradise. After arriving at the City Lord's mansion, Night Sorrow did not enter. Instead, he transmitted his voice to the Supreme Ancestor Phoenix in the inn in front of the mansion. "Night Sorrow, you're back." Upon hearing Night Sorrow's voice transmission, the Supreme Phoenix Ancestor was extremely excited. "That's right. Lord Ancestral Phoenix, I am in the restaurant opposite the City Lord's mansion. Please come over for a chat." Night Sorrow continued to send a voice transmission. He did not want to go to the City Lord's residence and alert the others. "Good. I'm on my way. Supreme Ancestor Phoenix appeared in the inn in less than 10 breaths' time. Night Sorrow, I didn't expect you to have already become a Supreme in such a short period of time. Upon entering the inn and seeing that Night Sorrow's aura was already at the Supreme level, Supreme Ancestor Phoenix Ancestor said excitedly. Back then, he had spent a considerable amount of time to become a Supreme, about 1,000,000 years or so. The current Night Sorrow had only used a few years to become a Supreme. The harvest this time is great. Not only have I become a Supreme, but Brother Xiao, Brother Wan, and the rest have also become Supreme. Night Sorrow said and recounted their experience in detail. Of course, he changed the excuse to the Supreme Longevity and said that he had chosen to cooperate with Feng Wuji. On the surface, the Divine World Territory had submitted to the 9 Profound Territory, but in reality, the Divine World Territory was still the Divine World Territory. This matter, actually, there's nothing wrong with it. Don't talk about pretending to submit and obtain a great paradise. Even if we really submit and obtain a great paradise, it's not a loss for our Divine World Territory. After all, the gap between us and the powerful territories is too big. We need this great paradise to nurture talents. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Supreme Ancestor Phoenix Ancestor told him not to feel pressured. No matter what, the Divine World Territory did not lose out on this matter. At this moment, Night Sorrow said with a frown, "Senior, don't worry, Night Sorrow will not let the Divine World Territory submit to anyone. In time, the Divine World Territory will become the king of all worlds. I am 1,000 times relieved and satisfied with you. You are the same as what Supreme Ancestor Horn said, the Divine World Territory's destiny child. I believe that one day, the Divine World Territory will be glorious because of you." Supreme Ancestor Phoenix Ancestor said with relief. Night Sorrow was a junior that he had personally guided, which made him feel very proud. Then, Night Sorrow summoned the 2 deputy city lords. He said, "Senior, look who this is." 2 deputy city lords. Why are you guys so weak? The 2 deputy city lords had already used the resources in Night Sorrow's great paradise to recover, but they were still in a sorry state. Seeing the 2 of them clearly, Supreme Ancestor Phoenix Ancestor said with a trembling voice. It's a long story. If not for Night Sorrow, we would probably be imprisoned in the great paradise forever. The first deputy city lord said with emotion when he saw his old friend. Senior Ancestor Phoenix, don't worry. Not only are the 2 deputy city lords fine, but they will also advance to Earth's sovereign soon. At that time, our Divine World Territory will have 2 Earth sovereigns. Ordinary territories will definitely not dare to deal with us. What? The 2 deputy city lords will both advance to Earth sovereign? What do you mean? Hearing this, the 2 deputy city lords were stunned, while Supreme Ancestor Phoenix Ancestor asked doubtfully. I obtained a lot of resources in the great and great paradises. These resources can allow the 2 deputy city lords to recover quickly and advance to Earth's sovereign. At that time, the 2 of them will be able to guard the great paradise. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, he took out some heavenly sovereign rules and essences, as well as other spiritual pills, and handed them to the 2 deputy city lords. Then, he took out a lot of earthly sovereign rules and essences and handed them to Supreme Ancestor Phoenix Ancestor. Senior, I hope you can advance to half-step Earth Sovereign soon. When the time comes, I'll help you find resources to advance to the earthly sovereign level. Night Sorrow, I don't know what to say anymore. The Divine World Territory is so lucky to have you. When Supreme Ancestor Phoenix Ancestor heard Night Sorrow's words, he was in a good mood. After the Supreme Longevity, the Divine World Territory was finally going to have a new sovereign. He was really happy from the bottom of his heart. Take it slow. My Divine World Territory will eventually become the king of all realms. Night Sorrow said with a smile and began to discuss the great paradise with the 3 of them. When talking about the current situation of the Divine World Territory, everyone was a little angry, but there was no other way. At that time, the Divine World Territory was on the verge of destruction. In the end, the three of them decided to follow Night Sorrow's instructions. Of course, under their suggestion, the routine was changed a little. That was, not only did they have to make a heavenly oath to enter the Great Paradise, but as long as they stayed in the Divine World territory, they had to do so. Chapter 3079. If we do this, will there be any opposition? Some people with pride will feel that this is being questioned. After the three of them finished speaking, Night Sorrow spoke. Some people were determined and felt that doing these things didn't matter. Some people, on the other hand, had fragile hearts. They were all cultivators, so there would definitely be some who were pretentious. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, the first Deputy City Lord said, "No. We have set the requirement, which is for everyone to participate. No one can avoid it. Including you, including me. This way, there should be no opposition. If there is, then they are traitors. There's no need to be polite and directly eliminate them." As he spoke, he showed his decisiveness in doing things. Hearing this, Night Sorrow nodded and said, "Then let the first Deputy City Lord preside over it. With the two Deputy City Lords in charge, there should be no opposition. I'll gather everyone in the Divine Realm territory and gather them in the Divine Realm city." At this time, the second Deputy City Lord took out a shiny golden token and threw it above the void. When the Deputy City Lord token floated above the City Lord mansion, it immediately bloomed with endless light. Soon, such light illuminated the entire Divine Realm territory. When the cultivators in the Divine Realm territory saw this scene, they immediately rushed to the Divine Realm city. Because the Divine Realm territory had been sealed for a long time, no one entered the supreme space at this time. Therefore, everyone in the Divine Realm territory returned to the Divine Realm city in a few days. When everyone arrived, the oath ceremony officially began. Just as Yi Shang and the others had expected, this suggestion was met with strong opposition. But these were all suppressed by the two Deputy City Lords and finally enforced. This forced some two-faced people into a desperate situation. A few of them had completely pledged loyalty to other territories and were completely exposed. Among them, including Supreme Ancestral Dragon, who was highly respected in the Divine Realm territory. It was very surprising. After these people were exposed, they immediately attacked the two weak Deputy City Lords and prepared to kill them. But Night Sorrow, Supreme Ancestral Phoenix, and the rest were already prepared for this and easily suppressed these people and killed them all. After killing Supreme Ancestral Dragon and the rest, the two Deputy City Lords began to discuss the matter of the Grotto Heaven with everyone. Night Sorrow no longer cared about what happened after that. After returning to Jing Yun's residence, he spent a month peacefully with Jing Yun and Wulingfei. In this 1 month, although he did not cultivate, Night Sorrow felt that he had become stronger. After that, since he had to wait for Bai Mei Sanren for 100 years, he began to absorb the Heavenly Supreme's natural laws and essence. His strength was slowly increasing. When Night Sorrow reached 70 years of cultivation, he felt that he was extremely close to achieving the intermediate 9 Heavens Supreme Realm. Originally, he wanted to cultivate for a little longer. However, 2 major events had occurred in the Divine World. The 2 deputy castellans had both advanced to the level of earthly sovereign. To the Divine World, this was a joyous occasion. On that day, it was to celebrate. The 2 Vice City Lords led the paragons of the God World, including Night Sorrow, into the Paragon space. In less than a year's time, he had killed more than 30 Supremes from other territories. At this point, no one dared to come to the Divine World to block people. After that, the 2 Vice City Lords came to the Grotto Heaven under Night Sorrow's lead. Night Sorrow handed over the control of the Grotto Heaven to the first Vice City Lord. Then, he returned to the Divine World and cultivated while waiting for Bai Mei Sanren's arrival. However, there were still 20 years before the 100-year agreement. Jing Yun suddenly woke Night Sorrow up from his cultivation state. "What happened, Jing Yun?" Night Sorrow, who was woken up, asked puzzledly. "Husband, I don't know how long it will take for you to return from the fog this time. Rather than waiting, I want to try to have a child. Speaking up to this point, Jing Yun continued, although I know that the chances are extremely slim, I still want to give it a try. Have a child? Hearing this, Night Sorrow thought for a while and said, this is indeed very difficult. That's because our cultivation is simply too high. I know. But if we don't try, we won't have a chance at all. Try, there will always be hope. Jing Yun continued with a flushed face. After she finished speaking, Night Sorrow suddenly felt his abdomen heat up. He directly carried her to the bed and tried. However, after about 10 years, he tried thousands of times, but there was no result. When there were still 10 years before the 100-year agreement, Jing Yun said, there are still 10 years, go and accompany her. The meaning of these words was naturally to let Night Sorrow accompany Wu Lingfei. She didn't reject Wu Lingfei's matter at all. On the contrary, she sympathized with her. After Jing Yun finished speaking, Night Sorrow was a little silent, not knowing how to respond. In the end, he still had incomparable respect for Wu Lingfei. That feeling was different from when he faced Jing Yun and the others, so he was a little conflicted. When Jing Yun pulled him to Wu Lingfei's door, Night Sorrow's heart was quite nervous. At this time, he heard Wu Lingfei say, come in. But Night Sorrow, who had never been nervous in any situation, felt his heart beating very fast. Although he and Wu Lingfei had broken the barrier before, a certain image in his heart had always been there. When walking in, Night Sorrow bit the corner of his lips. He didn't know if it was right to completely break the taboo with Wu Lingfei or Aunt Fei. You're here, sit down. When Night Sorrow entered the house, he slowly walked into the living room. Wu Lingfei poured him a cup of tea. Then she said, I want the same treatment as Jing Yun. The same treatment? Hearing this, Night Sorrow almost spat out the tea in his mouth. Don't be surprised. It's the same treatment. I also want a child. Wu Lingfei said and pulled Night Sorrow, who had just taken a sip of tea, into the bedroom. In the following 10 years, when Bai Mei Sanren came to find Night Sorrow felt a little unsteady. This feeling was as if his divine essence energy had been completely exhausted. However, he still said goodbye to Jing Yun and Wu Lingfei and set off for the foggy area with Bai Mei Sanren. In order to fight against the experts in the foggy area during the Great Calamity, Night Sorrow had no choice but to enter the tiger's den. After about 3 years, Night Sorrow and the others arrived at the edge of the foggy area. At this time, Night Sorrow let Chen Qingyun out and let him lead the way. The three of them walked into the foggy area step by step. As soon as they entered the foggy area, a large patch of fog appeared in front of them. This kind of fog was very special. Even Night Sorrow and the others couldn't see through it with the naked eye. Thus, he directly opened the sea serpent eye to check the path ahead. As soon as the sea serpent eye opened, Night Sorrow's scalp immediately went numb. Clan M. Chapter 3080. After opening the sea serpent's eye, they could see through the fog in front of them. However, at the same time, they could clearly see the many creatures in the fog. In front of them was an inconspicuous forest, but the trees had long been eroded by the fog. As far as the eye could see, they all looked very evil. Every tree had at least one mouth with 2 rows of shark-like teeth in it. At this moment, these trees were eating a huge half-step earthly sovereign owl. This owl looked like an elephant, but it was not. It was as huge as a mountain. Although it kept struggling, it was completely swallowed by the trees in front of them in less than 30 breaths. Not even the bones around it were left. This is a strange forest in front of us. The trees have mouths and fangs. It had just eaten an owl. How should we pass through such a place? After observing clearly, Night Sorrow immediately explained to the two beside him. Hearing this, Chen Qingyun immediately replied, "This forest is called the Strangewood Forest. It is everywhere in the fog. We'd better choose to avoid it. This kind of thing will devour anything it sees, unless it is destroyed." Alright, then let's go around it. Where do you think we should go first? Night Sorrow asked while looking for a route to go around the Strangewood Forest. Chen Qingyun pondered for a moment and said, since everyone is here to improve their strength. Also, you have the means to resist the fog. It's best for us to hunt some earthly sovereign beasts or other resources in the area in front of us. After accumulating to a certain extent, we can choose to enter the city and exchange for resources that are beneficial to our cultivation. I have a question. Is the city in the fog also shrouded in fog? Bai Mei Sanren, who had been silent all this time, asked curiously. Their understanding of the foggy area was too little. Every city in the fog is shrouded in a formation. There is no fog inside. In addition, the cultivators in the fog have lived in the fog for a long time. Many people have found the means to see through the fog. About 20% of them can see through the fog. Usually, teams that go out to hunt beasts will bring such people along. Chen Qingyun explained the situation to Bai Mei Sanren and Night Sorrow. At this moment, Night Sorrow continued to ask, Senior White Brow and I don't have the aura of the fog on us. Won't we be discovered if we enter the city like this? How can you not have the aura of the fog on your bodies? It's just that your minds haven't been corroded. In fact, as time passes, there will be an obvious aura of the fog around you. This was something that could not be changed. It's like soaking in fragrant water. You'll definitely be tainted by the smell. While Chen Qingyun explained with a smile, he continued, however, everyone should be aware that the rules of the foggy zone are completely different from those of the eternal supreme cosmos. In the foggy area, massacres could be seen everywhere. If you don't want to be seen through, you have to be completely unreasonable. If you don't like someone, you can just attack them directly. You will never be exposed. Good. That's easy. Night Sorrow nodded and continued forward with the other two. Walking on the ground, they bypassed the strange wood forest. After walking for about an hour, they encountered a bewildering beast of the earthly supreme level for the first time. The so-called bewildering beast was a ferocious beast whose mind had been corroded in the fog. They were more ferocious than the ferocious beasts of the eternal supreme cosmos. No matter what they saw, they would take the initiative to attack. This bewildering beast in front of us is called the devouring dragon demonic beast. Although it doesn't look good, it's very terrifying. Everyone, you must be careful when fighting it. Through Night Sorrow's description, Chen Qingyun immediately determined what the bewildering beast in front of them was. When fighting, can you use the power of your spiritual strength to detect the bewildering beast's location? Before they attacked, Night Sorrow asked. He could see and use the power of his spiritual strength to detect the bewildering beast's location. However, he wasn't sure if the other two could do it. Hearing this, Chen Qingyun immediately replied awkwardly, it seems that only cultivators with the strength of an earthly supreme and above can use the power of their spiritual strength to detect in the foggy area. I can use the power of my spiritual strength to detect things. However, the range of detection is only 100 miles. For the time being, I can't detect the bewildering beast. As Bai Mei Sanren spoke, he took out the iron rod from the space hollow. This was the divine weapon he had obtained in the winter. Brother Chen, enter my space hollow. The two of us will fight this bewildering dragon demonic beast. After Night Sorrow kept Chen Qingyun in the space hollow, he took out the golden heavenly halberd. The bewildering dragon demonic beast in front of them looked a little like a black phoenix. However, it had 2 heads and 1 foot. Of the 2 heads, one was like a chicken's head and the other was like a cat's head. However, both of them were extremely huge and looked very ferocious. Brother Bai Mei, let's do it. It seems to be restricted by the fog and didn't discover us. The bewildering dragon demonic beast in front of them was lying on the mountainside, about 300 miles away from the two of them. After saying this, Yi Shang and White-Browed Wanderer went up. When they were about 100 miles away, Night Sorrow transmitted his voice, let's do it. For ordinary cultivators, 100 miles was not considered far. For earthly supremes and earthly supremes, it was even more so. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, he directly shot the bewildering dragon demonic beast in front of them. White-Browed Wanderer brandished his iron staff and struck out. The two of them attacked at the same time. The bewildering dragon demonic beast did not even have time to react and took the two attacks head-on. After being hit by Night Sorrow and Baimei Sanrin, the bewildering dragon demonic beast suddenly let out an earth-shattering roar. That roar was hoarse with a trace of sorrow, as if it came from the dark hell. It sounded extremely evil and made people feel very uncomfortable. It was completely different from the beasts in the Eternal Supreme World. Its defense seems to be very strong. Senior, don't hesitate. Let's each use our strongest attacks. Let's kill it before it recovers. After being roared at, Night Sorrow felt very uncomfortable. He roared loudly to dispel the feeling of oppression in his heart. He activated the 33 Heavens Battle Secret Technique and used the Qingxian Godly Spear Technique to launch a storm of attacks on the bewildering dragon demonic beast. On the other side, Baimei Sanrin waved the earthly supremes in his hand and attacked in a similarly frenzied manner. For a moment, the bewildering dragon demonic beast was completely suppressed. At this time, it was too late for it to escape. In less than 20 breaths of time, it was killed. After killing the bewildering dragon demonic beast, Night Sorrow obtained a black crystal. This black crystal contained rich earthly supremes precepts and essence. It was of good quality. Brother Chen, I'll give this black crystal to you. After summoning Chen Qingyun, Night Sorrow handed the black crystal to him. Hearing this, Chen Qingyun said sadly, "It's useless to give it to me. My body has reached its limit and I can't advance to earthly supremes. Brother Yi, you can use it yourself. I can absorb it too." Night Sorrow thought for a moment and felt that it was a waste for him to directly absorb the Heavenly Supreme's precepts and essence at his current level. This was because the Heavenly Supreme's precepts and essence were too rare. He was prepared to change his routine and use the bewildering dragon demonic beast's earthly supreme's precepts and essence to advance to intermediate supremes. Clan M. Chapter 3081. In the foggy area, the sea serpent's eye could suppress the enemy first. Therefore, it was very easy for them to kill earthly supremes. Moreover, if they cultivated in this way, their foundation would not be affected much if they advanced to middle supremes. This was because Night Sorrow had already absorbed enough heavenly supreme precepts and essence at the lesser supreme level. How is it? Are the earthly supreme rules and essence in this foggy area different from the eternal supreme world? After Night Sorrow finished absorbing and got up from the ground, Baimei Sanrin immediately asked. Now, they were basically trying to cross the river in the foggy area. Although Chen Qingyun had lived here for many years, he was limited by his strength and the things he came into contact with were very limited. He couldn't even tell where the three of them were in the foggy area. Hearing the three's question, Night Sorrow thought for a while and said, "The earthly supreme rules and essence here seem to be purer than the eternal supreme world. I can't tell what it is, but it seems to be closer to the Great Way." Closer to the Great Way? Baimei Sanrin frowned and asked. Night Sorrow continued, "It's a very mysterious feeling, but it's hard to describe. But if there are more gains later, I'll try to absorb some and feel it." After Baimei Sanrin finished speaking, he continued, "Let's continue to kill the beasts." But Night Sorrow put Chen Qingyun into the space again and used the advantage of the sea serpent's eye to search for lone beasts with Baimei Sanrin. This time, in less than an hour, the two found a new target. It was a strange beast that looked a little like a stone mountain. The two of them successfully killed it. After obtaining the earthly supreme essence, Baimei Sanrin tried to absorb it and found that the earthly supreme rules and essence in this foggy area were indeed different from the eternal supreme world. He also felt that the earthly supreme rules and essence here were purer. Maybe it's because the cultivators in the eternal supreme world have more complicated thoughts and think more things. As for the creatures in the fog, they only have the heart to kill. Baimei Sanrin also came to the same conclusion. Night Sorrow made his own deduction. Baimei Sanrin smiled and said, "Maybe." Obviously, he felt that his speculation was a little too far-fetched. Night Sorrow didn't care too much about this. After that, the two of them started hunting mystic beasts again. Night Sorrow was also in the process of absorbing the earthly sovereign's precepts and essence. He was getting closer and closer to becoming an intermediate sovereign. On the 7th year after they entered the fog area, Night Sorrow and Baime Sanrin were fighting a mystic beast when they suddenly heard the sound of fighting. Along with the sounds of fighting, the roars of cultivators could also be heard. Night Sorrow and Baime Sanrin looked at each other and quickly used their ultimate skills to kill the bewildering beasts in front of them. With Night Sorrow opening the sea serpent's eye, the two of them moved towards the direction of the sound of fighting. The sound didn't sound far, but when they moved towards the direction of the sound, the two of them confirmed that the distance between them was about 10,000 miles. After getting closer, Night Sorrow opened the sea serpent's eye and looked through the fog. Suddenly, he saw a huge screen that looked like a mountain in the strange wood forest in front of him. The sound of fighting came from this curtain. In front of us is a huge tomb made of stones. It's thousands of feet tall and occupies a large area. It's surrounded by a dense forest of strange trees. These trees are the same as the ones we saw when we first entered the fog area. Every tree has a mouth. Night Sorrow saw the situation in front of him and immediately explained to Baime Sanrin and Qin Qingyun. Huge tomb? Could there be something good in the tomb that attracted cultivators to fight? Hearing this, Baime Sanrin frowned and said. At this moment, his eyes were dark and he couldn't see anything. Qin Qingyun said, according to the records of the fog area, the owners of such tombs were usually heavenly sovereigns when they were alive. Brother Yi, look around the tomb and see if there are any restrictions. There are restrictions, but they're already broken. They should have been destroyed by the people who entered the tomb. Night Sorrow observed for a while and said, to be able to destroy a heavenly sovereign level restriction, the cultivator who entered the tomb shouldn't be simple. Moreover, this tomb is in the forest of strange trees. Should we just avoid it? Qin Qingyun immediately said with some fear after hearing this. To him, the tomb of a heavenly sovereign and the forest of strange trees were extremely terrifying existences. At this moment, Baime Sanrin said with interest, we've hunted for 7 years and obtained earthly sovereign level items. Now that we've encountered such an opportunity, it would be a waste to miss it. Brother, do you mean that we should go in and take a look? Night Sorrow looked at Baime Sanrin and said, in fact, this was exactly what he wanted. It was estimated that the fog area was only 10,000 years away from the disaster of the eternal supreme world. He had to improve his strength as soon as possible. It was possible to advance to middle sovereign level if he hunted the beasts here step by step. But to advance to upper sovereign level and half-step earthly sovereign level, that would take too many years. It was absolutely unacceptable. Of course, as the saying goes, nothing ventured, nothing gained. If we don't take the risk, how can we obtain heavenly sovereign rules and essence, or even heavenly sovereign artifacts? Lead the way. Baime Sanrin made a prompt decision. He also knew how terrifying it was to be attacked by the fog area. The endless fog army, coupled with the ferocious beasts, was not something that the eternal supreme world cultivators could resist. Moreover, there were 3 peerless experts in the fog area. Okay, let's go. If the situation is not right, I'll put you into the space cave and escape with you. After all, I have the eyes of the sea serpent and can see very far. Night Sorrow said and led Baime Sanrin into the strange wood forest. After getting closer, Night Sorrow found that the trees in the forest were a little strange. It was as if they had fallen into a deep sleep and had no intention of attacking them. Brother Qin, why do these trees look like they're in a deep sleep? Night Sorrow, who was not sure what had happened, asked. This should be the sleeping curse. It can make the trees in the strange wood forest sleep for a year and not attack cultivators for a year. Only the major forces in the fog area have such means. The people in the tomb are definitely not simple. Qin Qingyun told him everything he knew. To be honest, he did not want to go in at all. Even his divine soul was trembling. Don't be afraid. Even if we can't defeat them, we can escape successfully. The path of cultivation is against the heavens. It's impossible to achieve success without a smooth journey. No matter what, your Tao heart must not be disturbed. Night Sorrow, who clearly sensed Chen Qingyun's situation, said. Hearing this, Chen Qingyun's body immediately trembled. He had an epiphany because of Night Sorrow's words. Clan M. Chapter 3082. In an instant, Chen Qingyun understood a principle. Even if his body was limited, he could still go against the heavens. He looked at Night Sorrow and said gratefully, listening to your words is better than 10,000 years of cultivation. My body isn't strong enough, so I can't advance to the Earth's sovereign level. But I can find opportunities to improve my body's strength. The world is so big, there will be treasures that can improve my body. You're right to think so. Never compromise on the path of cultivation. If you admit defeat, you'll disappear into the crowd. Night Sorrow looked at Chen Qingyun and said with a smile. However, just as he finished speaking, he said vigilantly, Brother White Brow, be careful. There's a small-scale trap array at the entrance of the ancient tomb. The trap array's method isn't brilliant, but breaking it rashly will alarm the people inside. After speaking to Bai Mei Senran, Night Sorrow summoned a pair of restriction-breaking hammers and said, Can the two of you bring us in without alarming the people inside? Of course. The array in front of us is only an ordinary sovereign-level array. We can easily deceive them. After observing the array in front of them, the male hammer said indifferently. The female hammer said cautiously, The success rate is very high, but we can't be completely sure. Because there's the possibility of an array within an array. Let me observe carefully. Caution is the parent of safety. After hearing the female hammer's words, Night Sorrow opened the sea serpent's eye and observed carefully. After confirming that there was no array within an array, he said, The array in front of us doesn't have an array within an array. We can go in. But then we'll bring you in. The female hammer said and brought Night Sorrow and Bai Mei Sanren into the ancient tomb with the male hammer. As soon as they entered the ancient tomb, the two of them felt a bone-piercing chill. At the same time, the original battle was still going on, and it sounded like it was far underground. Let's go in. I just hope there's no sky sovereign down there. Yi Shang said and took the lead to walk in front. As for the restriction-breaking hammers, they were shrunk and hung on his waist like two bells. Upon hearing Night Sorrow mention a heavenly supreme, Bai Mei Sanren laughed and said, If there really is a heavenly supreme down there, we'll probably be dead by now. The difference between heaven and earth is not a joke. I know. Night Sorrow clearly remembered that when the Supreme Longevity fought against some earthly sovereigns, it was a one-sided suppression. There was no suspense at all. On top of that, the heavenly sovereign precepts and essences that he absorbed were vastly different from the earthly sovereign precepts and essences. In comparison, it was like a divine object. After that, Night Sorrow and Taoist White Eyebrows entered a long and narrow passage. This passageway was only 10 feet tall and 10 feet wide. Night Sorrow looked around and found that he couldn't see the end of it. He opened his mouth and said, On the surface, it looks very similar to the materials used in mortal tombs. But in reality, this passageway was probably not simple. Let's observe bit by bit and go deeper bit by bit. After saying that, Night Sorrow summoned Little 7 and Little 9. Both of them came from the Eternal Divine Tower and had extraordinary eyesight. Little 7 observed for a while and said, There shouldn't be any problems with this passageway. It's just that walking straight is not the way out. The exits are all on the walls. There are about 100 exits. 100 exits? How can you tell? Bai Mei Sanren asked curiously when he heard Little 7's words. This is the famous 100 Spirits tomb in the foggy area. The passageway in front of us is called 100 Spirits Road. There are 100 doors called 100 Spirits Doors. If you walk to the end, you will die. So, you have to choose one of the 100 Spirits Doors to enter. You can only live if you pass through it. If you don't, you will die. Little 7 continued. It had entered the 100 Spirits tomb before and knew some things. 100 Spirits Door? What's inside? Night Sorrow asked curiously. 100 Spirits Door. There are 100 ghosts inside. Every one of them is an evil spirit, according to the strength of the tomb owner, who is a heavenly sovereign. There should be over 100 earthly sovereign evil spirits behind each door. Little Seven said word by word. 100 earthly sovereign evil spirits? Hearing this, Night Sorrow and Bai Mei Sanren looked at each other and felt that something was wrong. They were 2 earthly sovereigns, but there were 100 earthly sovereign evil spirits inside. If they entered rashly, they would be courting death. It's my fault. I should have warned you earlier. When I was outside, I already felt that something was wrong. But too much time has passed. I didn't think of it then. Little Seven said in a slightly vexed manner. It continued, but now is not the time to regret. There is no turning back once you enter this path. Let's find 100 spirits' door to enter. If we pass through it successfully, we might get a gift from the tomb owner. But the gift from the tomb owner in the foggy area might not be good. The creatures in the foggy area are bad. No matter what, we have to be mentally prepared. Since we have to choose one to enter, let's choose one according to fate. Night Sorrow said, then looked at Bai Mei Sanren and said, Brother Bai Mei Sanren, pick one and we will enter. Io, forget it. You are the one who is blessed by fate. You should pick one. I think the path you pick is definitely the right one. Bai Mei Sanren shook his head and said to Night Sorrow, but I will pick one. Night Sorrow nodded and kept Little Seven, Little Nine, and the restriction-breaking bronze hammer in the space hollow. Then they walked forward. After walking for a while, Night Sorrow saw the shape of a door on the wall. Every door is 100 spirits' door. You can choose one to enter. What is in each door depends on your luck. But there shouldn't be any heavenly sovereigns. Little Seven, who was in the space hollow, reminded them. But let's go first. There is nothing to choose from. Night Sorrow said, then walked to the door closest to them and said, let's go in. No matter what we encounter, we will kill it. But I will take the lead. Bai Mei Sanren was very generous and took the lead to walk towards the door. He really went through the wall and walked in. Then, Night Sorrow followed him in. After walking in, they entered a dark and silent space. The quiet and dark environment was as if time had stopped. Bai Mei Sanren, who was blind, said telepathically, Brother Night Sorrow, what is in here? My sea serpent eye can only see clearly within 100 meters. There is nothing within 100 meters. It is an empty flat ground. Night Sorrow observed for a while and replied. At this moment, the space where the 2 of them were suddenly filled with horrifying ghost cries. The ghost cries sounded extremely tragic and seemed to be coming from afar. The 2 of them felt something floating over at the same time. Chapter 3083. There were definitely more than 1 or 2 things floating towards them. When Night Sorrow saw them clearly, he immediately felt goosebumps all over his body. However, after careful observation with the eye of the sea serpent, he realized that not all of the evil spirits floating towards them were at the earthly sovereign level. There were 2 earthly sovereign evil spirits, leading hundreds and thousands of other evil spirits at the martial saint level as they wandered over sinisterly. He immediately transmitted his voice to Bai Mei Sanren. There are only 2 earthly sovereign evil spirits. If we go all out, we definitely have a chance. In the dark tomb, facing so many evil spirits, even Night Sorrow had to go all out. Many ants can bite an elephant to death. So many earthly sovereign evil spirits are also not easy to deal with. Let's use our own methods. As Bai Mei Sanren reminded them, he took out a copper coin covered in green rust from his spatial artifact. He threw it into the air, and the copper coin immediately shone with a faint green light. Being illuminated by this soft green light, the originally pitch-black space suddenly had a ray of light. After the light appeared, the faces of many evil spirits were seen by Night Sorrow and Bai Mei Sanren at the same time. Among these evil spirits, there were ordinary practitioners like Night Sorrow, but their bodies were green and white, the color of a dead person's skin. There were also some other unknown creatures with all kinds of strange shapes and sizes. But overall, each of them emitted a dense and evil aura. Reversal of heaven and earth, shackles of yin and yang. Seeing the appearance of these evil spirits, the white-browed wanderer frowned in fear and then loudly roared, "Come!" As he chanted the incantation, the faint green light suddenly turned into sharp swords, slashing at the evil spirits in front of them. In an instant, dozens of earthly sovereign evil spirits were killed. Good move. Night Sorrow praised Bai Mei Sanren when he saw that he had killed dozens of earthly sovereign evil spirits. Then, he took out the fire and beacon smoke diagram from his space paradise. He directly smashed it into one of the earthly sovereign evil spirits. This earthly sovereign evil spirit looked very similar to a Qilin, but it was surrounded by an oppressive aura of death. It gave off an extremely evil feeling. After Night Sorrow smashed the fire beacon smoke diagram at it, he stabbed it with his spear. He wanted to kill it directly. However, the fire beacon smoke diagram did not suppress the evil spirit in front of him. Facing Night Sorrow's attack, it laughed and pounced at Night Sorrow. His body had been pierced by Yi Shang's golden heavenly halberd, but his enormous body clamped down on the golden heavenly halberd. Even if Night Sorrow's body could not pull the golden heavenly halberd immediately, its sovereign evil spirit's body is so frightening. This was the first time Yi Shang had encountered a situation where he couldn't pull out the golden heavenly halberd. At the same time, the Qilin-like evil spirit abruptly let out an extremely evil roar at Yi Shang. It's a sound attack. Night Sorrow had rich battle experience. He immediately sensed the evil spirit's intention and surrounded himself with the power of merit. He used the power of merit to resist the evil spirit's attack. Although the power of virtue had a certain effect, Night Sorrow was still shaken to the point of dizziness. The power of merit is useful, but its grade is too low. Since I entered the eternal sovereign world, my power of merit has not increased. How can it completely resist the attack of an earthly sovereign evil spirit? I wonder if killing an evil spirit like this will increase my power of virtue. In the realm of the gods, Night Sorrow only needed to kill evil creatures to obtain the power of merit. At this moment, a thought appeared in his mind. He ignored the earthly sovereign evil spirit in front of him and attacked the sovereign evil spirits that were pouncing at him. Soon, he killed more than 10 of them. Now, his true fighting power was definitely at the level of an earthly sovereign. Although there were many evil spirits in front of him, they were not much of a threat to him. The reason was that Night Sorrow did not have any shortcomings. Whether it was his body or his spirit, they were both very strong. He killed more than 10 sovereign evil spirits in front of him. Yi Shang was pleasantly surprised to find that they had turned into golden power of virtue and burrowed into his body. With the support of the power of merit, Night Sorrow's power of merit began to increase rapidly. By the time he killed 500 to 600 autarch-level evil spirits, his power of virtue would have successfully advanced to the intermediate sovereign level. After all, the gap between his power of merit and his cultivation had been too big before. Now it was increasing rapidly. Night Sorrow's protective divine domain had strengthened a lot because of this. Very good. At this rate, my power of merit will soon catch up to the level of a sovereign. This is really a pleasant surprise. The rapid increase of power of merit without any bottlenecks made Night Sorrow very excited. When his power of merit had advanced to the level of an intermediate sovereign, Night Sorrow fought with the Qilin evil spirit again. At this time, with the support of the power of merit, he smoothly took out the golden heavenly halberd. Mysterious azure divine spear art. After taking out the golden heavenly halberd, Night Sorrow immediately activated the 33 Heavens battle secret technique and used all his strength to fight the evil spirit in front of him. At this time, Bai Mei Sanren was struggling to fight with another earthly sovereign evil spirit. That earthly sovereign evil spirit was a humanoid evil spirit. When he was alive, he should have been a cultivator and an expert among the earthly sovereigns. The strength of his body was extremely high. Although Bai Mei Sanren had the advantage in terms of technique, it was difficult for him to heavily injure his opponent with his attacks. He could only find opportunities to kill some sovereign evil spirits in the battle to reduce the pressure on him and Night Sorrow. The battle lasted for about an hour. The sovereign evil spirits in front of them had all been killed by the two of them. Their opponents were only the two earthly sovereign evil spirits in front of them. Facing his opponent, Night Sorrow didn't have to struggle too much, because his power of merit had a strong restraining effect on the evil spirits. After gaining the upper hand, Night Sorrow suddenly roared, "Merit Trap Array!" Then, he used the power of merit to lock the earthly sovereign evil spirit in front of him. Then, the Divine Finger, Divine Spear, and Dragon's Roar all attacked the Kirin evil spirit. After being hit by the series of attacks, although the Kirin evil spirit's body was extremely strong, it was still heavily injured and basically lost the ability to resist. At this time, Little Seven, who was in the space cave, sent a message to Night Sorrow, "Don't kill it yet. Let me go and subdue it. I should be able to get a lot of benefits. Let me do it. I'll get more benefits if I kill it." Hearing Little Seven's words, Night Sorrow smiled and killed the Kirin evil spirit. After the Kirin evil spirit was killed, it immediately turned into a sky full of golden power of merit and surged into Night Sorrow's body. After absorbing the power of merit of an earthly sovereign evil spirit, I didn't advance to an upper dominator? After absorbing the power of merit, Night Sorrow felt very comfortable. The power of merit in his body also increased, but it didn't advance to an upper dominator as he had expected. Clan M. Chapter 3084. Just now, his power of virtue had advanced very quickly, but when it reached the intermediate dominator level, it slowed down. After absorbing the power of virtue transformed from an earthly sovereign evil spirit, he hadn't advanced to the level of an upper-level sovereign. While this surprised Night Sorrow, he also knew that the path to the power of virtue's advancement required him to kill a large number of evil spirits. As soon as this thought flashed through his mind, Night Sorrow shouted, "Brother Whitebrow, I'm here to help you." He realized that Bai Mei Sanren was slightly passive in his fight against the evil spirit. The evil spirit that Bai Mei Sanren was dealing with could actually increase its strength a second time. It was more powerful than the one that Night Sorrow had killed. Night Sorrow didn't expect that at this moment, Bai Mei Sanren would say, "There's no need to help. I've reincarnated from the previous era. I don't lack methods. Dealing with it is a piece of cake. But then I'll help you. At the same time, I'll study the path ahead." When Night Sorrow heard Bai Mei Sanren say this, he knew that he definitely had the confidence, so he didn't help. He summoned Little Seven, Little Nine, and the pair of restriction-breaking hammers. He said, "Let's study the surrounding environment together." Even with the sea serpent's eye activated, Night Sorrow couldn't see very far. To him, the place in front of him was complete darkness. The only thing he could see clearly was the area where the battle had just taken place. The strength of the perception barrier here is too strong. I can't see what's around me, Little Nine said helplessly after being summoned. Not long after, Little Seven and the restriction-breaking hammers also gave feedback. They couldn't see anything either. Here, they were like people who had been locked in a dark room but didn't know where they were. Uncomfortable. Really uncomfortable. Night Sorrow released his spirit power to investigate, but he couldn't find any direction. It was as if the mountain was high and the clouds were deep, and he didn't know where he was. Since he couldn't find anything, Night Sorrow turned his attention to Bai Mei Sanren's battle. In terms of strength, the white-browed wanderer was weaker than the evil spirit in front of him, but just as he said, he had a lot of tricks up his sleeves. Often, he would be able to turn danger into safety and counterattack in a seemingly passive situation. After about 2 hours, Bai Mei Sanren completely killed the evil spirit in front of him. I've gained a lot from this battle. After killing the evil spirit, Bai Mei Sanren laughed and said, "Brother Yi, I'm not feeling well. Quickly let your white jade cleanse me." He had been fighting in the fog for a long time, so it was natural for him to be corroded. Hearing this, Yi Shang smiled and said, "We probably won't need the white jade." Sanrin Kue Sanrin's power Sanrin of light dragon Sanrin Sanrin of virtue Sanrin surrounded by the golden dragon of virtue, the black gas around white-browed wanderer was completely dissolved. Amazing! Is this the legendary power Sanrin of virtue? Bai Mei Sanrin asked doubtfully after the black gas on his body was cleansed. It's the power Sanrin of virtue. It has the same effect as the white jade, Night Sorrow replied. He didn't hide anything from Bai Mei Sanrin. This was the respect he deserved. That's great. It's a pity that the power Sanrin of virtue is something that can only be found by chance. Brother no longer has the chance to pursue it. Bai Mei Sanrin smiled and continued, Brother Night Sorrow, how's the search going? Not much. It's completely dark here. We don't even know how many pairs of eyes are watching us in the dark. Night Sorrow told him the truth. This place should have been set up by a heavenly supreme. He couldn't see through it at all. Since that's the case, why don't we just keep going forward? If we encounter evil spirits again, we'll just fight. What do you think? Bai Mei Sanrin said without hesitation. Sure. As the saying goes, the brave are fearless. If there's no path, we'll just have to fight our way out. Hearing this, Yishang nodded. Then, he took off the white jade and handed it to Bai Mei Sanrin. Brother, I have the power of merit to protect me. You can keep the white jade with you for the time being. If we get separated, you won't lose your mind completely. Then I'll do as you say. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Bai Mei Sanrin did not hold back. However, after receiving the white jade, he said, Brother Night Sorrow, this is a huge gift. I have nothing to give in return. You will have the priority to choose any item we find in the fog. Brother, you're too polite. If we get something good, we can discuss it later. Night Sorrow replied indifferently and continued to walk forward with Bai Mei Sanrin. However, as they walked, they were stopped by a mountain. What's going on? There's a mountain in this tomb? Being blocked, White-Brow Wanderer immediately asked in confusion. Night Sorrow, who had activated the sea serpent's eye to observe, was shocked and said, Oh no! Brother, get out of the way. This is a huge evil spirit. But. Bai Mei Sanrin responded and used his movement technique to hide in the distance. Night Sorrow saw that the evil spirit was a towering beast. They were blocked by one of the beast's legs. He used the mysterious sky secret shadow to dodge. Under his intentional control, he did not pull away from Bai Mei Sanrin. Just as the two of them began to dodge, the giant beast lifted its thick and sturdy legs and stomped towards the two of them. What kind of evil spirit is this? What a huge leg! The giant leg of the evil spirit was so huge that they could not see the end of it. Bai Mei Sanrin, who was dodging, found that he could not dodge at all. He immediately shouted, Brother Night Sorrow, I can't dodge this leg. I'm going to attack directly. But in that case, I'll attack too. Let's work together to get rid of it. Hearing Bai Mei Sanrin's words, Night Sorrow immediately took out the golden heavenly halberd and the fire and beacon smoke diagram. He threw the fire and beacon smoke diagram into the void, wanting to affect the giant evil spirit. As for the golden heavenly halberd in his hand, he directly thrust it upwards. Night Sorrow did not use any unique skills in this attack, but it was still very lethal. The evil spirit was in so much pain that it lifted its giant leg directly. Good move. Watch me. Seeing Night Sorrow's spear make the evil spirit raise its foot, Bai Mei roared loudly and used the iron rod in his hand to smash it upwards, creating a loud clang. Brr! After being attacked continuously, the evil spirit was obviously angry. It let out a ghostly wail. This wail was much louder than Night Sorrow and Bai Mei Sanrin's. It was many times louder. With Night Sorrow's physical strength, he actually felt as if his eardrums were about to explode. It was very uncomfortable. And this evil spirit's sound wave attack seemed to be endless. It had no intention of stopping at all. You're not done crying? Watch me smash your head. This kind of ghostly wail affected a person's mind. The evil spirit continued to let out ghostly wails. Bai Mei Sanrin soon could not take it anymore and began to attack fiercely. Clan M. Chapter 3085. However, Bai Mei Sanren flew for a long time, but he didn't see the giant evil spirit's head. What welcomed him were 8 giant tentacles descending from the sky. When these tentacles were waved, they were the size of mountains. In comparison, Bai Mei Sanren seemed rather small. He wasn't even as big as the suckers on the tentacles. However, this didn't affect his attack power. He looked like he was invincible with a metal rod in his hand. He smashed the evil spirit's tentacles fiercely. "Ha! Brother is mighty!" Night Sorrow shouted from below. He also rose into the air to help Bai Mei Sanren fight against the giant evil spirit's tentacles. "We are both earthly sovereigns, but why is this tentacle monster so difficult to deal with?" Bai Mei Sanren, who had been waving his metal rod for a long time without breaking the tentacles, quickly frowned. He realized that the tentacle monster in front of him was many times stronger than the earthly sovereign evil spirit that he had killed. It felt invulnerable. This tentacle monster's defense is amazing, but its other aspects are very ordinary. "We have some patience, and we will kill it eventually," Night Sorrow said in surprise when he felt Bai Mei Sanren's emotions suddenly become agitated. "Kill, kill, kill." However, after Night Sorrow finished speaking, Bai Mei Sanren suddenly became even more manic. Night Sorrow used the sea serpent's eye to take a look and realized that his eyes had turned blood red. His entire body was emitting a strong aura of hostility. "What's going on? Bai Yu, didn't I ask you to protect Brother Bai Mei? What's wrong with him?" Realizing that something was wrong, Night Sorrow immediately sent a message to Bai Yu. He was hit by something that the evil spirit's tentacles spat out, causing him to lose his mind and fall into a state of madness. "It has nothing to do with the fog." Bai Yu immediately explained to Night Sorrow that it wasn't its fault. Something that the suckers spat out? When Night Sorrow heard this, he immediately became alert and surrounded himself with the power of merit. The power of virtue he currently controlled was at the level of an intermediate dominator. Directly attacking an earthly emperor-level evil spirit was not particularly effective. It could only be used as support. There really is something spewing out. Yi Shang had just enveloped himself with the power of good karma. The giant evil spirit's tentacles suddenly spat out a large amount of things at him. What was spat out was not liquid, nor was it mist. Instead, it was a large amount of vicious energy. This evil energy was red in color, and it contained a large amount of emotions, such as killing, bloodthirsty, and world-destroying. If it weren't for the power of merit blocking it, Night Sorrow would have been hit as well. So it's these things. After confirming what the tentacle monster had spat out, Night Sorrow immediately used the Dragon of Virtue on Bai Mei Sanren, allowing the Dragon of Virtue to purify the evil aura on his body. He was entangled by the Dragon of Virtue. Bai Mei Sanren's blood-red eyes gradually recovered, and so did his mind. "What's wrong with me? I don't have any strength in my body. I can't condense any divine origin energy." Bai Mei Sanren, who had recovered, did not even have the strength to fly. As he spoke, he directly fell downwards. "You were hit by the tentacle monster's secret technique and used up all your divine origin energy." At the same time Night Sorrow replied, he kept Bai Mei Sanren into his space grotto heaven, and let Chen Qinyun help him retrieve resources to help Bai Mei Sanren recover. He himself was completely engaged in battle with the giant evil spirit. In the process of battle, Night Sorrow discovered that the strength of this evil spirit's body was at an abnormal level. Even his golden heavenly halberd's divine spear was unable to penetrate it. The only good thing was that this tentacle monster's greatest ability was spitting out vicious energy. This move was completely useless against Night Sorrow. In the following battle, Night Sorrow relied on his annoyance to slowly fly to the top of the tentacle monster's head. He completely destroyed its dragon-shaped head. This process lasted for a total of 10 hours. After killing it, Night Sorrow was so tired that he almost collapsed. He thought to himself, "This is only the 3rd earthly sovereign evil spirit, and it's already so difficult to deal with." Little Seven said that there were more than 100 evil spirits. It seems like this trip is going to be difficult. As he thought to himself, Night Sorrow's body completely absorbed the power of virtue that the evil spirit had turned into. This time, Night Sorrow could clearly feel that his power of virtue was not far from the upper dominator level. He immediately understood how to break through the 100 Spirits Gate. That was to use battle to nurture battle. Through battle, he would strengthen his power of virtue bit by bit. Finally, he would rely on the power of virtue to break through the 100 Spirits Gate. Brother Night Sorrow, it's all thanks to you this time. Otherwise, I would have been killed. Bai Mei Sanren, who had recovered a little, said with lingering fear. The giant evil spirit just now didn't seem to have any ability, but it suddenly exploded, making it impossible to guard against. If Night Sorrow didn't have the power of virtue protecting him, the two of them would definitely have been killed. I'm also lucky to have the power of virtue protecting me. Otherwise, I would have also been killed. Night Sorrow said modestly and began to recover. This time, he used about 3 days to completely recover. However, Bai Mei Sanren didn't completely recover. Therefore, Night Sorrow continued to lead Bai Mei Sanren forward. At this moment, the chaotic heavenly crystal beast suddenly said, Night Sorrow, can you let Little Seven give me all the things it absorbed? I'll discuss it with Little Seven. Night Sorrow knew that the chaotic heavenly crystal beast, who had been cultivating all this time, had a great use for it. You can give it to him. I don't care about these things. Little Seven, who had just absorbed a lot of evil spirits, handed them all to the chaotic heavenly crystal beast. After absorbing all of them, the chaotic heavenly crystal beast's strength suddenly increased by leaps and bounds. I still need to absorb some more to reach the peak of the half-step earthly sovereign level. When I advance to the earthly sovereign level, I can fight side by side with you. The earthly sovereign evil spirits in front of us are too strong. I'm no match for them now. After absorbing all the resources, the chaotic heavenly crystal beast was close to the peak of the half-step earthly sovereign level, but it had no intention of coming out to fight. This was because, with its strength, it was useless to come out and fight the earthly sovereign evil spirits. The 100 Spirits Gate is still long. If nothing goes wrong, you should be able to advance to the earthly sovereign level here. When that time comes, you can reach the sky in one step. However, you have to remember that our future opponents are not earthly sovereigns, but heavenly sovereigns and ultimate sovereigns. Don't be complacent when you advance to the earthly sovereign level. As Night Sorrow responded to the chaotic heavenly crystal beast, he held the spear in one hand and continued to walk forward. The chaotic heavenly crystal beast said, Don't worry. I won't be satisfied so easily. That's good. I'll give you some heavenly sovereign laws and essence. Try to absorb them. It can let you comprehend some heavenly sovereign laws earlier. As he spoke, Night Sorrow handed a small spirit to the chaotic heavenly crystal beast for it to absorb. As soon as this was done, Night Sorrow once again heard the cries of evil spirits. Clan M, you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.